Welcome to Pixels and Politics, where tonight we're tackling the digital behemoth that is social media. I'm Blackheart, and as always, I'm joined by my co host Dougie, and tonight's special guest is Sarah, a Gen Z English major ready to help dissect the virtual landscape. As we dive into the echo chambers, curated realities, and the broader impact of social platforms on society, Sarah's insights will illuminate the nuanced ways that these tools help shape our lives. So please, join us for a thought-provoking discussion that goes beyond the likes and shares to the heart of how digital spaces define our world. Sarah, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Oh, doing great. Monday has been as challenging as ever, but here we are, almost to the end.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm still halfway through my day because I'm on the Pacific Coast, but
Lucky.
California is the home of social media. Check that out.
yes,
You
Wow.
really are the
California,
perfect woman for the job.
born and raised. I love it here.
um,
Actually, I'm not being sarcastic.
yeah. I mean, I only hear bad things about California, but that's probably a topic for another time. Um, I thought it would be a good start if we just kind of talked about our introduction to individual introduction to the internet and social media. Um, and how much we use it currently versus before. So, how about we
Right.
start with Ryan, because, you're the boomer, and then we can make our way
Oh,
down.
okay.
Wait, I'm not a fucking boomer. What are you
I
talking
know,
about?
I
I'm not even
teased, I
30.
teased.
What the hell? Look, just because I have boomer hands in league doesn't mean I'm an actual boomer.
Uh, eh, eh, you're getting up there, buddy.
Debatable.
You're getting up
Yeah,
there.
okay. Oh, can you all hear that? Dude, the dog I'm watching is freaking going crazy with this little toy she has. Holy crap.
Aw.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, she has a lot of energy, so you know, it's gonna be something. All right, so where are we starting the conversation, Dougie?
So, how about I'll start, because we're the same age, and it's kind of irrelevant. Um, I remember the exact time I first got a cell phone, and it was a flip phone. It only had the numbers. There's no keyboards, no touchscreen. You didn't even use it to text because
How old
it
were
was,
you?
I don't know, like 14, I think,
All right.
maybe 13. Um, and I don't know. It was just a phone you kind of rarely even used to make calls. To be honest, like it really wasn't something you spent that much time on. And even after we got a computer, and you found the most amazing thing that was the internet, you still also didn't spend that much time on it. There were like some games you probably get on and play, most of them were like flash games, and they're pretty simple and boring. But you still spent a lot of time outside with friends, um, or playing console games. And then I think in middle school they had MySpace. That was the big start of social media. I think, at least for me, it was
Let's
MySpace.
go.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe people used it differently. I know some people were some avid, uh, chatters. And they had a bunch of friends, and that's like it was pretty much the Facebook for them. But for me, I just sat there and like changed the background. Like that was something you did. You just decorated it as much as possible, and you could put like music in the background. So when people on your page they could hear music. Um, and that was like the extent of social media. You probably spent less than 30 minutes in total a day. I think that's probably even an exaggeration on MySpace or texting. If you texted, it was mostly to like, hey, fucking meet me out in the field. We're gonna go beat each other up. Like that was pretty much it. And then I think it took off in high school. Um, and when Facebook came out, and I mean, I'm sure Facebook was came out earlier, but it didn't really pop off until I remember high school years. And then we got touch screens, and then memes kind of became a thing. So you had apps like iFunny, and then YouTube. You
Oh
know,
no.
even YouTube was like you didn't spend that much time on YouTube at all. Like there were just cat
Mhm.
videos, and that was it. That was the extent. And there were some crackheads on YouTube. Like YouTube was very different back then. You go on YouTube to watch people do the most insane shit or say the most
Mhm.
unhinged things. Um, I think most of us kind of understand what social media looks like today. And I think seeing the jump from how little I've used it and even the people around me use it to how much it's like so prevalent. I mean, like, I remember never looking at my phone ever. You know, it's just in my pocket or just off in the middle of nowhere. But like now it's always there. It's always beside me. Like I gotta make sure that thing is fucking by me at all times, you know?
Right.
Uh, I just think it's wild the jump. I'm not, you know, I'm only 28, so the jump is so wild. It's so crazy how prevalent this technology is. Um, so Ryan, if you would like to share your adventure, and then Sarah, I am dying to hear, you know, the
Oh Lord.
changes for you.
Right.
Well, I got my first cell phone when I was an eighth grader, so it would have been 2007 maybe.
Oh
Uh,
Lord.
I remember a funny story where back then text plans like didn't have unlimited texting. You had a certain amount.
Hmm.
My parents told me that I had unlimited texting though, but they didn't read the fine print, and the contract was like you had unlimited up to like 2,000. And I sent like 10,000 text messages that month,
Oh my god.
and they got like a
Ooh.
$10,000 phone bill and were
Oh
pissed.
my god.
They called the phone company. Were like, "No, we're not paying this." And they're like, "Okay, like, how about we just put them on actual unlimited texting then?" But
I mean, I'm surprised they let that go though. That's nice.
yeah, well, uh, I guess if you yell loud enough, you can speak to the manager. But anyway, so got my phone then. I guess that was my first foray right into like texting and things. It wasn't a smartphone. It was just an LG Vcast, right? Just the normal open phone text call. I didn't get a smartphone until I was a sophomore. I had the Samsung, or not the Samsung, the Verizon Voyager, which was competing with the iPhone, like the early competitor for the iPhone. And then I don't think so. I didn't use MySpace. MySpace was I live in a small town in Iowa, right? So like social media reached us like I would say pretty late. MySpace was like
Mhm.
kind of dying by the time I ever heard about it. But Facebook was like the big thing. So I got a Facebook account what summer of 2010 maybe? And that was my first like real foray into social media, I'd say.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like some of the kids I went to debate camp at like Stanford and they were all using Facebook and got me into it and I went home and I was like, "Hey guys, have you heard of Facebook?" And they're like, "What's that?"
So
It's
you had
crazy.
to be the messenger.
You're the
Yeah, so
problem. You're part of the problem. Is you.
it was me the
Without
whole
you.
time. Yeah, well, what can I say? I like creating addicts. I think it's funny.
Oh Lord. What an interesting take. Um
Sarcasm. I gotta put that out there. That sarcasm wasn't real.
In game.
guys,
In
guys,
game.
please, was it
In
true?
game, yeah. It was in game, of course. Yes, yes.
Um, is it my turn then?
It is
Or
your
Yes,
do you
please
turn.
still have
tell
more?
us.
Okay, great. So in 2007, I was 3 years old, so I didn't have a phone then, thank God. Um, I first got a phone, I think, when I was 9, which would have been, two, 2000, guys, quickly, what's 9 plus 4? 2012,
13.
right? 13,
What the
2013, okay.
Okay, hold on.
Sorry,
Time out.
I can't
I
do
guess
math,
you are an
sorry,
English
guys.
major. I was about to say. I was like, what the heck? How did you mess
Um,
up 9 plus 4?
Listen, I'm so sorry. It's been a long day.
Fair.
So yeah, I first got a phone when I was 9. And it was like those slide phones. I can't for the life of me remember what the like model or brand was, but it's like the ones that you like slid open and it was like a keyboard. And I'm pretty sure it was touch screen at that point. And I only used it to like call my mom when I would walk to school, or back home, so she would know like I hadn't died on the way there or back, you know?
That's good.
Mhm.
Um, And then I got my first iPhone when I was 12, in 6th grade, which was 2015, maybe. I think, yeah. And from then, yeah, it really took off. Instagram was starting to be like a huge thing, at least for people my age. Um, and my adolescence was like never without a phone from then on. Like, I have always had a phone with me. I've always been connected to social media. I've always had access to like contacting people on a whim. Like, I've always had online friends. I was really big into like playing Minecraft. And I had online friends through Skype, and I would talk to them all the time. I had friends who lived in Alaska when I was like 13, and I would talk to them daily. So yeah, I was like very connected, and honestly, I think it kind of like it definitely did have some adverse effects. Because I was just like so impressionable that it was like I didn't have the like brain to differentiate what content I was consuming that was good for me or bad for me or whatever. I don't know if you guys know who Shane Dawson is.
Oh yeah,
He was real huge
sure.
when I was like younger, and like he made content for younger people. I don't think adults were consuming Shane Dawson's content. Um and he would do like blackface, right? And
Oh,
I would watch those videos, and I didn't know that it was wrong because I was like fucking 12. I had no idea what blackface was. Um, and so it was just like crazy shit like that that I was exposed to that I had no idea whether it was right or wrong because like how the fuck was I supposed to know I was 12? So definitely I think it was way different than your guys' experience with technology just cuz it like I think it rotted my brain a bit. I'm not gonna lie.
hmm. I don't want to. I don't know if. I guess there would be a significant difference of impact from when we were the same age because there just wasn't that much content. I definitely still think it was brain rotting, but really there just wasn't enough that like you could sit around and do. Like you couldn't sit there for hours on YouTube and watch videos. You'd get bored. They were all cat videos. Like, it wasn't happening.
Or
Um,
really terrible animations. Do you remember
yeah,
those?
yeah, for sure. The annoying orange. You remember that shit? Like,
Yes, of course.
um. So yeah, the difference is I think in just the amount of content. I would probably picture our time as more vile. Like there were there were a lot of just there was no regulation or moderation. You could pretty much post whatever you wanted. You could post at any age you wanted. There was no filter between groups or generations. It was just a complete cesspool of whatever whatever and you wanted to post, and that was it. It was crazy. So I do know there's a lot of studies now that have come out that have shown its impact generationally has gotten a lot worse, which is wild when there has only been, pretty much. I guess now there's like 3 generations, right, that have grown up on this technology or using this technology, and it's wild that it's taken them so long to
I mean,
really.
I think older generations than millennials are also impacted by it just to a lesser extent.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
they still use it, right? Like I have grandparents that use Facebook and use Twitter and obviously use YouTube and all these other things. It's just the way they interact with it is a lot different. Like it feels like every generation that's younger has just like a I don't want to say like they use it more fervently, but it is definitely like the social norms around it change by generation. It seems like with some lines blurred in between, but it's I feel like social media it's had some good it's had some positives. It hasn't all been bad, but it's also I wonder how much of like the whole like oh kids are always on their phone. I wonder how much of that is attributed to social media and how much of that is just attributed to having a device in your pocket that can get you pretty much anything you want that no other generations before this have been able to fathom being possible. Like, I feel like if we had been like, oh, like, you're going to have a device in your pocket that's more powerful than the computer that took us to the moon. Like, if we had said that, like, 40 years ago, people would just be like, ah, you're crazy. Like, there's no way. But yet here
Yeah,
we are. We have smartphones that can do pretty much anything. They can do math. They can tell us any piece of information we want, or bring us to disinformation, or connect us with people, or play games, or anything. The possibilities are endless, pretty much.
for sure. I don't disagree. I I do think it's impacted everybody across the globe, especially Facebook, right? Facebook has, I think, it's the most used social media on the planet. It's like kind of died in the U.S., but it's something that has actively grown in a lot of poorer nations, and it's very very popular. And you're right, it has done a lot of good. It's connected people. Debating whether or not the benefits have. I would assume that it has actually benefited us more than harmed us, but the harms I think are kind of crazy, especially because of how long they've gone just unregulated. They just haven't been punished, the tech companies. And it's only been a topic recently, like within this year, past 2 years, that they've really tried to step down a bit, the government, on them to make changes that will hopefully protect everybody. But children being the biggest one.
Yeah. I mean, I think for a long time, like the extent to which companies sort of, because I mean, a big call for the regulation, right, is that these companies are either negligent in getting harmful content in front of children, or they're like their algorithms are pushing it to them, right? Like I know that was one of the big criticisms of TikTok in particular, right? That like they were like it was really easy to find like self-harm content and all this other sort of bad stuff for kids, right?
Yeah.
And
TikTok isn't
Facebook,
even the only one. It was Facebook too. And those Facebook and TikTok are easily the biggest culprits of pretty much anything negative when it comes to social media. They're at least when it comes to children, they're terrible. Both of them are just flat out terrible.
right. I just don't think for a while it was really understood, like, I guess just what role they played, either negligent or, like, trying to put that content because it's like, oh, well, that's what they're clicking on and that's all we care about. So, I mean, government's always going to be slow to react to stuff, right? Like, that's why government regulations are always so they're reactive. They're not proactive, right? They have to see that there's a problem before they step in, right? Because you don't want a government that just preemptively tries to tell you can't do certain things, right? Like, because at the end of the day, it's like you don't know. Like, this could be harmful or it could be helpful, or we don't understand the problem, so we can't just like shoot in the dark. That's just, I think, how government works.
Uh,
Yeah, I definitely do. Oh, sorry.
no,
Go
no, no.
ahead,
Go ahead.
Dougie.
All you. I've been talking for a bit now.
Yeah, sorry. I do agree. It is really difficult thinking about, you know, if the government can regulate different sorts of content and how they reach children and stuff like that, you know? I think a main thing is that it's ultimately right, social media is like a business. And the business is like a whole bunch of different things from influencers and stuff to that. But like a main thing is like collection of data. I know I'm gonna put my tinfoil hat on, but like it's an actual thing. Like, people make money off of selling data, and that data can be used for all sorts of things. They're not always sinister. It's not always like, oh, the government is tracking you and they want to know where you are at every second. It's stuff for like algorithms and like census data and research things, whatever. But like, it's like a money thing. And I guess the government, like, if you start putting regulations on that, it means that some people are gonna stop making money from certain things, or maybe less money, and things get muddy within that, you know?
You didn't put the
Yep.
tinfoil hat on like tight
I took it
enough.
off.
that
Oh,
was that was not enough. So it gets it that very factually true. Like they are sinister. They do collect massive amounts of data, and it gets even crazier than that. They are used in algorithms, but not only people don't understand how much data they collect on us. It's not just like your browsing history, right? And even then, like that's something that
Mhm.
people go up in arms about. It's your emotional state throughout a day, throughout a month, throughout a year. They track your
Mhm.
when you're happy and when you're sad, when you're excited and when you're probably laying in bed doing nothing. They track all of that stuff. That way they can figure
Yeah.
out when it is you're more likely to spend money. And they all kind of collaborate with each other too. So like Spotify, I know I love Spotify, but they they are apparently one of the bigger ones that track your emotional state through music. Um,
Oh,
and then they sell that information to someone like Amazon, who then says, "Oh, this person who we know is more likely to buy things when they're depressed is currently
damn.
depressed. Let's start shoving ads in their fucking face." And then it goes even beyond that, where they know they can manipulate you emotionally through either images or music or um, I don't know, whatever they can throw in front of your face or in your ear. Like
Or even where you are. That's
sure,
one
yeah,
thing as well. Like they'll know, like, oh, you're pinging off of this cell tower on your way to fucking Target. Here's some Target ads.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The network goes really, really deep, and I don't think people realize how much of their lives, like daily, like every second of your life, is actually
I
impacted.
I think they do. I think I would say most people
Yeah.
understand it, but they are also like, okay, so what? Like, okay, they know when I'm going to the store and push me ads. Okay, so what? Like, I would rather bite that bullet and still be able to use my cell phone and still do all these other things than, do whatever it would take to keep that from happening, which may impact
Right.
how I interact with my device or my social media.
But would
I
you?
think also,
Go ahead, go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead, Dougie.
I was just gonna say if like either you would care if you found out that like it's throwing something in your face just particularly to make you angry or sad, just to get you to either spend more time on the application or to actually like go and buy something. Like I for some reason for me that gets me all fired up. I'm like what the hell? Trying to manipulate me? That pisses me off.
I
No,
mean, I
that's
think.
like,
Go ahead, Sarah.
sorry.
No, you
I
go,
was
go, go,
gonna
go.
say, like, I feel like being upset about it is a perfectly reasonable response because it is pretty fucked up. It's like yeah, they're playing with your emotions to make capital, which is inherently wrong, whichever way you twist it, you know? But I think what you were saying about how most people don't care, and then what Blackheart was saying, where people do care, but it's like, or they do know, but like they don't care because it's like, well, whatever, I'm gonna keep posting on fucking Instagram, you know? I think from what I experience from my generation is we're well aware of the things that are plaguing us in our society with social media and um like targeted advertisements and data collection, but it's a futility that we feel. It's not that we don't care. It's like becoming apathetic because it's like what can I do about it? I could vote to whatever state representatives and get them in office and whatever, but at the end of the day, money means more than my vote. So what can I do about it? Because tech companies are going to lobby. What am I going to do? Protest? That's not going to do a lot, you know?
Yeah, I'd say the feeling of apathy has definitely grown the more, like, the older our country gets, the more apathetic people feel about, like, their voice being heard, whether it's through voting or through protesting or whatever. How many Facebook campaigns have we seen to, like, go end Coney 2012? You know what I'm saying? Like, like that didn't mean shit. But
Yeah.
what I was gonna say too, Dougie, about like being mad about, like, oh, don't you feel mad when people try to make you feel a certain way? My answer is like no, because you know what else tries to make me feel a certain way? Dude, fucking art, music, movies, video games, all of those try to make me feel a certain way. And at the end of the day, the more they make me feel, the more I like their stuff, and the more money I'm gonna spend and give them. So at the end of the day, isn't that kind of the same thing?
I I don't know. I would argue one's more voluntary. Like when I go and play The Last of Us, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a sad game. Actually, I like watching sad shit when I'm feeling a type of way. I like watching romance stuff, right? When I'm feeling lonely, like I like having that control. What I don't like is if I hit Spotify and I go on shuffle. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Ignorance is bliss. I don't want them manipulating my playlist just to make me feel a specific way that will get me to buy a product or something. You know what I mean? I don't like knowing that, or I don't like knowing that they have that amount of control
Can't
because
you
I don't
just pick your own
trust them.
fucking music then, you nerd?
You could, right? I guess that is like the solution, but um,
Hello? You have responsibility too? Hello? Hello? Hello?
but
Imagine
That's
letting Spotify choose your music. Cringe.
But I guess it's for people who, because I will say, critical thinking skills are really lacking. And for people who don't have them, they will just be herded into whatever the fuck Spotify wants them to feel so that they'll buy a fucking plushie from Amazon because they're feeling lonely because they just got broken up with. Like,
sure,
for people who can't think for themselves, like, I'm not saying they can think for themselves, but they don't want to dig deeper behind the stuff that they're consuming and the apps that they're using. Like, what does that mean for them, you know?
it means a lot. It means it's. I mean, if we even just move from whatever capitalism, which is fine. I like capitalism. I think it's great. We can just go run with it and say that's fine. It's an effect of capitalism. We can then talk about propaganda and how and disinformation and how very easily these algorithms and these systems are manipulated to again make people feel specific ways towards events. I mean, obviously the Israel Hamas thing is one of the easiest ones to bring up, but even Ukraine Russia um, or even just some of your favorite celebrities, the way they're portrayed, very intentionally taking Trump, the Biden, all the things taken out of context and completely used to get you all fired up and on their side. Like you said, a lot of people are not using their critical thinking skills. They're just going to take what's thrown in front of them. They're not going to think twice about it, whether it's true or not true. So this is like it's kind of become a weapon used against us, and like not just for capitalistic needs, but like again as a weapon against other people, other countries, other groups of people, other races. Like it's become. I feel like it's reaching its peak, where I would be surprised. A lot of things have already kind of come to fruition because of it affecting the real world. Massive protests and but it could very easily start a war. AI generation. We're about to hit the peak where it's just overloaded with content. Um, through the use of AI. I'm sure both of you have seen the video generator and what it can do.
Oh yeah, that shit is wild. I do not like the implications of that at all.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are pretty nervous about it. The only places I'm nervous about it is in social media, where we already spend so much time scrolling to find, that treasure, the one image we wanted to see, and now we can imagine a world where you can see whatever the hell you want, with a prompt, and then eventually there won't be need to be a prompt. It'll just know because of all the data it has on you. Oh, you're feeling lonely today. You're playing lonely songs. You're playing sad music. Well, here's a person who looks like you with a significant other that you've probably fucking described out loud to a friend in a private call, and it knows exactly what you would want to see, and then it's an AI generated video, and you're just like, wow, like, you know what I mean? Like, these things are they're much closer to existence than we think. Like, it is right around the corner, and I can very easily picture a world where every single piece of media that is shown to us, not stuff that we're choosing to see, like a made playlist, but stuff that we're, looking at random. It's not random, right? Is completely tailored to our wants, our that like picture we have, that fantasy we play up in our brain, all of a sudden it's right there on the screen.
Hmm. But is it
What?
such a bad? But is it such a bad thing? Like in a
Um,
world where you can have anything you want, like literally anything. Like you could say, like I want to experience in a virtual whatever, right? Whether it's headset or on your computer or on your phone. You're like, I want to. I'm feeling lonely. I want someone to talk to, and you have an AI, you know, bot or personality or whatever you want to call them, talk to you and help, take away that loneliness. Is that worse than you just literally being there alone, sitting there crying?
Yeah,
well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I guess. Oh, sorry. I think. Well, the question that you just posed, is it better than sitting there alone crying? Absolutely not. It's not better. I think it's perfectly okay to feel your emotions. I think it's a little problematic but sorry for throwing that word around. But like I think there's an issue with, wanting to solve all of your problems and live in like a peaceful state of bliss, I think there's like being sad, like feeling lonely, I think it's an integral part of being a human being, especially like in the modern day, it kind of keeps you humble. And like it's something that everyone can relate to, like we might, like the three of us, our experiences in life probably differ very completely, but I'm sure we've all felt lonely and sad
Never
because
once
we
in my
feel
life.
lonely.
Never
All
once
right,
in my life.
sorry, I forgot you were like a mega chat, just
Yeah,
have
exactly.
dishes
Giga
hanging
chat,
off your
but yeah,
arms,
yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I definitely think it's kind of like weird to think. I don't really think I would choose to be like in a state of like perpetual bliss. I feel like I might get bored. Like if all of my problems could just be solved all the time, you know? I don't know. What are your
I
guys' takes? And
No, I agree with you completely. I already think it's a problem. I already think people feel like shit, and then they go in their bed and they fucking scroll on their phone and they find that one video or picture that doesn't make them feel like shit. When they're lonely, they find fucking a couple video and they're like, "Oh, this is so cute." They're getting that same feeling that they would get if they just went outside. I'm starting to get old. I can tell. I can tell.
literally just stare at the grass, guys. Let's go touch
Like,
grass.
please, like, I already think it's a problem where it the thing is you should solve the problem that's making you feel sad. You shouldn't seek an emotional replacement through an image or video on your screen. And I already think people are doing that so much. So to live in a world where, I mean, it's a choice, right? Well, you want to sit there and live like that on your phone, great. But I think it's just depressing and it sucks. I go to like family events, and I don't see them that often, so I'm sitting there like, this is great, and everyone's just scrolling like crazy, and I'm just like, bro, what the hell? Like, and I don't even mean they're using their phone like texting their friend or texting their family member or doing something important. They're literally just scrolling on videos, and I've really cut down on social media, but it's kind of irrelevant because I get pictures and images from literally, or videos from literally everybody. And it's just like I've seen an increase. I've noticed an increase, and it's like what is going on? I don't know. I think it's just being used too much, and it's a choice, right? Like it is what it is, but it does make me
What
a
is
little
what
sad.
is what is too much?
Um, Too much. Too much is if, let's say, you're lonely and you have the means to go out and look for a relationship, but instead of doing so, you kind of let the emotion build up. Then you lay in bed and cry, and then maybe you scroll and you find that video that makes you feel better, and then you get out of bed and you go about your day, and then you just repeat that process. That's too much. And I think,
So,
yeah,
okay. Well, so there's no like set time, right? Like, so you're saying that it basically it depends on the situation, and usually it's when you resort to social media as a way to cure your symptom as opposed to going out and addressing the root cause. That's your
yes,
kind
exactly.
of definition of it.
100%.
Okay. So what if I'm a person who's sad and lonely, but I don't want to like meet someone else. Like I want something else to fill it. Maybe I, just don't like people. Like,
I have an input for you.
okay.
You find peace within yourself. Like, if you're feeling lonely but you don't like people, that you have to make your own mind a nice place to be for yourself, you know? Like if you're looking for company, you can provide that for yourself. You can be like a nice place for yourself to be with, you know? Like you can just enjoy your own company. But if you don't enjoy your own company and you don't want to hang out with other people, what are you going to do? You're going to doom scroll on TikTok to feel a like hit of dopamine, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I definitely think there is a limit. Like, but at the same time, there's not going to be a way to like identify what that limit is. Like, what is too much for me may be different than what's too much for you, Sarah, which is not the same as what is too much for Dougie.
Yeah,
And
that's totally fair.
I think that that's where a part of like the regulatory issues come in, which is just like, okay, so like what's harmful, what's not harmful, like what can we, because government can't just like tailor it to the individual person, right? They have to crapshoot, right? Or they have to shotgun approach, catch everybody with it. They have to cast a wide net. They can't just,
Yeah.
do all this other random stuff. So it's gonna be like a pretty big problem. I feel like
All
that is of itself is a problem.
I think the problem could be solved a lot easier than most people think. And personally, I would just like the option to regulate my material more. I want to see my own algorithm. I want to be able to change it, and I want to be able to regulate it myself. And that technology exists. 100% it exists. There's a reason they don't show us these things or give us that control. there's there's a very clear reason. They don't even need government regulation to do it. But it everything you see on your screen or here is tailored to you specifically. And the controls exist. They just don't want to give them to us.
Yeah, I think
However,
though if you try to regulate too much though, like don't you feel like there's like a bit of a you know, um
Like a bit of censorship going on at that point, like where it
yeah,
could go too far, where it's like someone wants to post something that's not inherently wrong and they
like
can't
yeah, like
because
let's
of
yeah,
censorship.
yeah, like let's say like oh, the government of whatever, like let's say it's a blue president. Let's say blue president thinks red content is harmful and they start censoring it. Like
I think at that point so we do have the freedom of speech in this country. I don't it also would kind of conflict with different countries like laws, you know? Which is another thing to think about. But I wouldn't see that happening here specifically because our right to the freedom of speech is specifically to protect us from the government to like telling us not to say or do something. So if it was the government implementing those laws, I think it would be unconstitutional. You know, to
yeah,
like
our government also
be
has
like
been
you can't post red party content. You know, like
our government also yeah, but our government also allows us to do other harmful, quote unquote, harmful things to ourselves, right? Like I think it's well documented that like, hey, if you're eating too much and you're like morbidly obese or you do nothing but drink soda and never drink water, that you're probably gonna die early. And they let us do that anyway because freedom.
well,
okay, okay. So one,
that's
I
yeah.
want the
Go ahead, Doug.
controls. I want the controls myself. I didn't mean for the government to step in. I wanted to be able
Yeah,
to see it and manipulate it myself. Two, which I actually think will happen eventually, but just
I think
because it
that's very
fits.
possible.
Yeah, I think it fits with the American, the U.S.'s constitution, and it's the only way to like truly regulate these things. Um,
Hmm.
but two, the government already fucks up censorship. That's like a common thing that happens. That was like
Yeah,
the
they
whole
have
Twitter
already
archive
left
thing. Like
things.
that already happened, where you know red red Senate members were getting censored on Twitter, shadow banned or whatever. That's already a thing. It's kind of been a thing for a while. Um, but you
Yeah,
guys,
Twitter's crazy.
yeah, Twitter's a fucking cesspool too.
It
Um,
really is. When we were talking about censorship, that's what I was thinking about mostly, because it's like, yeah, you know, censoring things can get out of hand, and it's like really dependent. Like, you can't please everyone, and then like at what point are you censoring people who aren't causing harm, um who just want to express like themselves or whatever. But definitely, one thing that I think that is like so awful that happens right now is like self-harm Twitter. There are like children, like 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds posting their self-harm cuts, and they rate them for each other.
Oh,
And it's totally fine under Twitter's guidelines. Like, some of them are uncensored. It's like completely up to the user that's posting it if they want to censor it or not. And also, it's like if you turn off the safety controls in Twitter, which I feel like most people do. I don't know. At least I do. And it's like, how is that just like allowed? Like, how are you just like allowed to open up Twitter and like post like a gaping wound?
ooh.
Like, how is that okay? I don't know. But then it's like, I guess like those people could claim that they're expressing themselves, but I'm like, you're expressing signs of mental illness, and you should go seek help instead of just posting about it on Twitter, you know?
I
What do
definitely
you think, Teddy?
I think the rules for children and adults should be different. I mean, I think that's kind of been a common growing sentiment here in the U.S. is that maybe
Uh-huh.
there should be more regulation when it comes to children, and they've been really pushing for it. We've kind of been seeing that grow um, a bit. So the Senate actually held a hearing where they got all of the CEOs for all the social media companies and sat them down and really pressed them to form some safety nets and regulate their platforms a little more. It's pretty funny you brought up Twitter or X because they pretty much went under the radar just because they're kind of they're new. I'm doing air quotes here.
Uh,
And they
are
had
they get Elon Musk in here?
um and they had the lowest amount of children on their platform. It was like something less than 12%, or maybe it was something like
That's
that.
good.
So they'll have to figure that out. I don't know how they will, but I know there's been a huge movement here in the US to finally get websites and the applications to separate children from grown adults and regulate the children's content. Uh,
Right.
it's been really hard for them to do it, and I don't know if we ever live in a world where they figure it out because we don't live in a country where you can force people to identify themselves.
Yeah.
It's illegal.
And
So
like the implications of that would be crazy. So it's kind of like it's tough.
yeah, I think America is facing a very unique problem here. Obviously, in the Asian countries, we've talked about this before, but in the Asian countries, it's very easy for them to you attach your social security number pretty much to all your accounts, right? Um, and in
That's
Europe,
crazy. I didn't know that.
yeah, that's like it's especially obviously in China, but like even in
That seems like an
Korea,
insane concept here.
right? Yeah, that would
Like,
the
that
people
to
would
be
outrage
executed here, people would shit their fucking farts. Like, they
for
would lose
sure.
it.
No, 100%. So, and
I might lose it too.
EU
I think
took
I would be a part of those people.
yeah,
Sorry.
I don't think anyone in the U.S. would enjoy that shit. People didn't even like the X thing where they were censoring people, and there's already been a huge push against like not just social media, but like media in general about how they're just telling lies and trying to control us. Like, imagine if the government was like, "Yeah, you guys have to, attach your social security number to all your accounts." Like, people would fucking lose it. They'd go wild. Um,
Yeah.
the EU's approach has kind of been a more blanket, like let's just make the internet safer. Um,
Mhm.
and the US is just out here with its own unique problem of we can't really regulate or censor like that legally anyway. And they've,
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. I think, well, yeah, that's true. I was like, it's kind of, I don't know. Because at what point is it like, I don't know. At what point is it like speech. Like is really like posting a picture of like literally unfiltered, uncensored gore, like you're right as a human being
Yep,
in this country. Like I don't
it
know. I
is.
know it is, like technically yes, but I'm just like I
As
don't
long
know
as
if
you're
that should
not
be allowed.
as long as you're not harming or threatening someone else. Yes,
Hmm.
that is
Ooh, and
pretty
it's crazy. I don't know. That's what I'm stuck on. I'm just like I think that's wild. Like you can just subject people to that for vibes.
So that's why I think the answer that we'll eventually come to in the U.S. is actually being able to, differently for children, but um, is the ability to kind of self censor, where instead of a company saying, "Hey, you can't see this," you can say, "I don't want to see this," and
Yeah.
therefore those images will immediately be blocked out. We can already kind of do that through the like and dislike systems, and even when you say
Um
shit out loud, like "I hate blah blah blah" or "I don't want to see blah blah blah," it records you, right? So I think that's just the direction that the U.S. is headed in. It seems like it's one of the only solutions that'll work.
I think it's I think it's a pretty
mhm.
creative one. I think it would almost have to be something like that for the
Hmm.
US just because of all the problems like playing devil's advocate before. I think you're kind of right. I think a system in place where, each individual person has like a profile and, you know, can tailor what they want to see and what they don't want to see more. In if I think then need to be punishments on the back end though, where if a company's going around that, like if I say I don't want to look at Target ads and I still keep getting Target ads, then like there's gonna be problems. You know what I mean? Or like if
Sure.
I don't want to
Yeah.
see gore and you keep showing me gore, then like that company or whoever's pushing that shit should be held accountable.
I mean,
But
I feel like that low key already happens too because I don't know if you guys have ever had the pleasure of rotting your brain on TikTok, but I have. And
nope.
there is a function where you can like go to a video that you've watched and click see less of this or see less content like this, right? Um And I've done that before because this is so stupid. But I kept getting like posts about Taylor Swift. I guess the algorithm thought that I was a Taylor Swift fan, and I was like, no, I don't want to see this. I don't like Taylor Swift, you know?
How
And I
effective
kept
was it?
getting it. Huh?
How effective was it?
Not at all. I
I
every
hate
single Taylor
TikTok.
Swift
I
video.
hate TikTok so much for that reason. I swear. Sorry, keep going, and then I'll rant.
Sorry. Yeah, okay. So literally every single time I saw a video that mentioned Taylor Swift, had Taylor Swift in it, I would click, I don't want to see this. And I would get more Taylor Swift videos. And I was like, please set me free. I don't want to see her.
Well, quick question before you, or quick comment before you start ranting, Dougie. But that's because notice how it says "see less of this," not "see no more of this."
Yeah. Yeah. And like people on TikTok have like tried to, they're like, oh, is the see less of this not working for you? Close the app for 5 minutes so that they get the message that you'll stop watching TikTok, stop making them money if they show you this content. And I'm like, why do I have to go to that length? You know? Okay, go, Dougie.
I was just gonna say I was a pretty early adopter of TikTok, and I realized very quickly that it was completely uncontrollable. There was nothing you could do to get them to stop showing you things you didn't want to see, and it was clearly there was a lot of manipulation on their end, not to feed you content that you wanted, but to feed you content that they wanted to show you. And it was
hmm
awful. I quit it pretty much immediately. And I talked to some other people, and they said the same thing. It was just like it's very different from YouTube Shorts or Instagram or um. This is the only two I know of, but it's very different. It is so clearly heavily manipulated by an outside source. And I cannot stand it. That earlier stuff we were talking about being manipulated, TikTok is the fucking crown jewel of that. Like it's the king. It does it. I'm telling you, I hate TikTok so much. Um, it's actually the worst. I don't think people realize how bad TikTok is. But
I definitely do realize it. Like I still use it and I like recognize I'm like, damn, I'm doom scrolling right now and then I close it. Um And yeah, the algorithm is pretty shit. Like, cause it really lumps you in like a general group of who it thinks you are. And like, so you'll have like my friends and I will send each other videos. We're sending each other literally the same videos. Like, it happens a lot of times where like we just get the same videos on our For You page and then we like send it to each other and then we're like, oh, we already saw that, you know? So it's like it just takes like a demographic of person. So like for me, like, 19-year-old female, gay. And then it's like, here is content that we think that gay 19-year-old females would like, you know?
Mhm.
Um, but it's like you can't really do anything to like control it because like apparently gay 19-year-old females like Taylor Swift. I hate her, but I can't stop getting her on my For You page. So yeah, I think it is definitely, you're right. It's pretty awful with its algorithm, even though it's like supposedly praised for that. It's definitely just feeding you what it wants you to see for your demographic, and I find that very irking too.
Yeah, I quit it. I mean, it got to a point where nothing I did changed anything. I was just getting the same exact shit over and over again. I was like, oh,
Mhm.
this is fucking beyond ridiculous. Like, it was so crazy. I was just like, yeah, well, you gotta go. Like, it is what it is.
Back to YouTube Shorts.
Yeah. So, no, fuck TikTok. I fucking hate TikTok. Um,
Yeah, I also, dude, being on TikTok is really interesting and seeing people younger than me interacting in it. Like, I feel like it's like this whole thing. It's like you can tell by the way that these people are commenting that the like literacy skills are like way down for kids these days. Like, they don't know how to read. They don't have like, in school you learn how to analyze text and infer things and use common sense. I feel like these kids cannot do that. Like, just like seeing how like younger people interact with social media now, like I'm saying younger people, meanwhile I'm like fresh out the womb, but like I'm serious, like actual children that are like, I don't know, 12 to 16. They're just like, they look dumb when they comment, and I'm like, I feel like they shouldn't be allowed to like be rotten their brains on TikTok right now.
I don't know if like reading is the problem. Like I think people can read. It's just I feel like reading comprehension is
Oh
down.
no. Ugh, this is like a whole like black hole that I've been into
Might also
because
be
I
California, so
okay, first of all, no, don't it's us as a whole country, okay, thank you.
I'm just
But
saying
like,
California is the most people. You're gonna drag down the average a little bit.
no, that's true. That's true. But also, yeah, that is true. I won't deny that. But I don't really think it's like a statewide thing. I think it's definitely a systematic thing um, for our country as a whole. But people keep asking me if I want to be a teacher with my English degree. And that's why I personally have done like some research into the state of schools nowadays. Kids cannot do anything. It's a little bit because of COVID and also because of school boards and stuff like that. But you'll see schools having like a whole grade of children fail that grade, and they'll just pass them and move them on to the next grade and hope that they learn what they need to learn in that next grade, which obviously they won't because they didn't learn the content before, so how would they know the content after? But they have to pass them because you can't have like a whole grade repeat, you know? Like that would look bad and ultimately bring in less money because while public schools don't get like a lot of funding, they are still like a profitable thing, you know? Like people invest money into public schools to see money come back out. And so like do you guys get what I'm saying? I feel like it's so quiet. I feel like I'm putting on a tinfoil hat right now. But
I
I think
basically,
I think the systematic failures of the education system are pretty. But it varies by state too, right? Like in Iowa, right? There's always been a high emphasis on public education, and Iowa's rates have stayed stable or have, slightly improved in some areas. But then you see areas like, I don't know,
California.
Seattle, I think is the one that comes to mind. Like when they like were like, oh, there's no longer like any sort of reading requirements because it's causing too many students to fail and causing too many problems. We're just gonna take it away. It's just like what?
Hmm.
What you're talking about, Sarah, is it's a pretty contentious topic right now in among politicians, and there are some very dividing factors. So, like, I know Florida actually had a pretty dog shit, um, like a rating in terms of public schools. It was pretty bad. They were like one of the lower ones, and then they did
Hmm.
a voucher system, I think it's called, where if you if your students did well, you got pay bonuses, and then if you students did poorly, you pretty much got fired. Um, and they ended up jumping like 20 spots or something, maybe even more. Like they went from like bottom 20 to top 20. Um, but yeah, there
Right.
are some other states who have kind of taken a different approach, where they think it's bad or good, where they're just kind of passing students. And then you're right again. COVID came in and really threw a wrench into things, where there was a really high dropout rate because of COVID, and then those students never went back to school. Um,
Hmm.
so nope, everything you said is they're very true. There's a lot of COVID really kind of fucked up students. Sending them home to work work from home. Not everyone's really made for that. It's not a thing that a lot of people can do. We're social creatures, so womp womp. They couldn't handle it, or these are kids. They're not going to have a lot of discipline, so
Hmm.
naturally, the parents aren't hovering over them during their times they're at work or they're supposed to be working.
Hmm.
So yeah, like they're not passing, and then yeah, there's a high dropout rate during COVID, and then they never went back. And
Yeah.
education has just been a pretty high topic for our government right now. Not just because of quality, well, yeah, quality, but uh, you know, the agendas being pushed or not being pushed. Education has been a
Yeah.
pretty hot topic.
Which I
So
think is really interesting, despite whatever stance you may take, what children should be taught in schools regarding agendas or whatever the fuck. Let's move past that. Why are we talking about what kids are being taught, like based on like if they know that gay people exist or whatever?
oh boy.
What about
Um
the fact that they can't read? Like, I don't know. What about the fact that literacy rates are dropping? Like, I don't know. Like, isn't that more important?
we could go all over the place with this one. I'll
Could
take it
run around in circles.
I'll take it to an area that I feel very comfortable talking about, and that's AI.
Okay, okay,
um,
okay, okay.
so how when I picture the future, and I don't think it'll take us very long to get there. I think AI will be very important when it comes to education. Or it'll standardize things across the board, um,
Mhm.
which should help close the gap for poorer schools versus richer schools. But at the same time, there is some natural limits to people and how much they can learn or how much they're willing to learn. Not not just based on like biological factors, but just on how they interact with the world. Not a lot of people can sit down for 10 plus hours and absorb information. People all learn very differently. Um, so this having my phone be able to talk constantly and respond very naturally to what I'm saying, and even getting to the stage where it knows what the fuck I'm thinking, that can
Mhm.
kind of shore up these differences when it comes to either work or social interaction. I don't necessarily like it. For example, in January, Samsung did uh, like a convention or like a showcase where they showed their new technology, and one of the things they showed was the ability to have an AI read your text message that you were going to send and then transform it to in a style of whatever you wanted. So, you'd like to have like, hey, how are you today? And then you could change the style of it, right? So you could do it to have like cool. and then it'd be like, "Hey girl, sup?" You know, like it would
Ew,
just.
ugh, that's
Sorry,
foul. No, I get it. No, I get the example though.
but like
Essentially having
yeah.
the AI code switch you without you having to think about it.
Yeah, and how easy would it be? Like, it's like, oh, can you make me sound smarter? Use bigger words. Like, unfortunately or fortunately, being intelligent isn't going to necessarily matter as much. And by intelligent, I mean like between the like top 60 and top 20%. The like that place that a lot of people can very easily reach with some effort. And
Hmm.
it'll be easy for people to at least fake it through the use of technology. And it's the same with like calculators, right? Like a long time ago, we didn't have calculators. We had to sit there and know all this shit for math. Who the fuck even like besides mathematicians? Like who's not using a calculator? You know what I mean? If I were to
Hmm.
throw off some random multiplication problems to you, I like you to get them all. You know what I mean? Without using a calculator, it doesn't make you dumb, but as technology advances, it does have that reliance factor, and we're hitting the part in technology where it's not just math that it overtakes, it's literally human language, you know?
Yeah. Um, I will say, thank God we're not at that point yet, because um, right now AI is pretty fucking bad with like, you know, you could write like an essay or ask ChatGPT, the most common form of writing AI, um, to write you an essay, and like I guarantee most people who have read maybe more than like 5 books in their life could tell it was written by AI or at least influenced.
I can
Because it
think
has
so.
like a really stale it has like a really stale um tone to it. I'm not sure how to further describe it, but it just seems really sterile.
Yeah, my counterpoint is, and it kind of goes back to the whole, like you said, where who cares? Like, there's already a lot
Who
of that
gives a fuck?
content out there, and I see it all the time now. Especially, I love reading like news articles, um, and I can just see it. It's just there. Yeah, like I can just tell. Oh, this is mostly written by AI, and
Mhm.
there's like what like you said, like what can we do about it? Nothing. It doesn't matter that the quality is kinda the same as like your average writer. It might even be better, but you're right. The tone is kind of poop.
Heart's breaking right now.
Uh, so I also think that technology is there. It's just they're having trouble when it comes to consistency. And the other part is that the highest level, the highest quality of this technology is not being used by us. It's being used on the back end by big
Mhm.
companies for like file readers and um, just back systems where people have to like log in. Like big companies.
That's definitely true. It's definitely, oh God, it really makes me angry. I saw that Google was trying to, like, I don't know if they did or didn't, but they were trying to like implement this thing where, if by using Google, you accept like a term of service, right? And so if you use Google Docs and do any of your writing in there, they're fully allowed to use that as samples to feed into their like AI things. And I'm like, that's kind of crazy. It's like the same thing with like AI art, how artists are just getting basically ripped from their art and having it like melted and meshed into like a completely different piece of art without their consent just because it's like on the internet? Uh
Well,
and
yeah.
I hate it. I hate it. It feels gross. It feels icky.
Maybe it's because I'm not an artist, but I don't give a fuck to be honest with you. I
You're like, fuck
I
it,
don't
I'm
fucking care.
artist.
I mean, one, I use image generators all the time. I think it's great, and
Hmm.
my I understand the outrage. It will replace artists. It is what it is. You just find I think
I think it might. I still think that, I don't know. I still think that art has like a human touch to it that I don't think AI can replicate, but maybe I'll be eating my fucking words in like 10 years.
well, I think it'll help when it comes to shoring up the differences between right brain and left brain people. It's like kind of not a thing anymore, but like I don't know. I look, I have visions in my head. I just can't bring them to existence. you know?
Right.
And now I can. And to me that feels great. And vice versa,
Mhm.
there are, people on the opposite end who I don't want to how do I don't want it to sound insulting, but then maybe they don't like think in numbers, or you know they'd have trouble
Mhm.
just with simple communication, and it kind of shores up that. And in the same context, it learned to speak from people who write a lot of stuff in the comment section on Reddit or something. You know what I mean? It's like, do those guys also deserve some credit? Should we be paying them for the babble that they put out? I don't think
Um,
so.
no.
Oh,
Well, that's a really interesting implication, and I think it goes back to privacy. Like, but also I think it's ultimately different because those Redditors who are yapping in the comments, whose comments get fucking fed into like an AI generator, you know, do they really care? Like, how much work did they put into typing out, their comment? Like,
have you read some
I
of
think
them?
it's like a
They're paragraphs long. They go at it.
yeah, that's true. I think it is really interesting. I pity the people who have to ultimately figure this out in the future, and I thank God that I'm not one of them. But
I hate to break it to you, you will be one of them. This technology will
oh,
affect everybody, especially teachers. I think
yeah, but I
it's
don't think I'm gonna be like a lawmaker or anything. So I think I'm good on that front.
you think what?
I said I think I'm good on that front. Like I don't think I'm gonna be like someone in charge of creating the laws that would regulate that. So
Oh, but it's still coming for
I-
your job.
oh
It's
yeah,
still coming for your
definitely.
job. It. I think there'll be. This is a
But it's
topic.
like, isn't it kind of? It has the potential to come for anyone's job if
Oh,
you think
it
about
will.
it.
Oh, it will. It will.
And so that's why
There's no
I'm
doubt
not
about it.
worried about it because I'm like, well, if I'm going down, so are you fucking losers. So we're in this together, like.
There's that
Just the plot of Final
nihilism.
Fantasy X, dude. This is the plot of Final Fantasy X. Everything gets automated. Nobody does anything except for athletes.
Dude, maybe I should be an athlete then. No.
I can see it.
You could do it. Hey, any of one of us has the potential to be an athlete in some way, shape, or form,
True.
even if it's a chess player. All right.
Okay, true. Very true.
Here, I could see Dougie being a chess player.
Dude, I've been watching. This is so off topic. I was watching Tyler one earlier, and he loves playing chess. I could
Uh,
smoke him in chess. He is. I don't know what he's doing, but that dude's
he's such a
trolling.
meathead.
You
Yeah,
beat him in league, now you gotta go beat him in chess.
yeah, dude. I just gotta follow him around and beat him at everything. Um. All
Stream
right,
snipe,
just
stream snipe.
bringing it back to um social media. I
Moving
did.
on from Tyler one.
I did want to touch on its effect on children, because I think its effect on adults, like you said, is it's kind of like our own problem where we can tune in and out and it's our choice and blah blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah blah. However, for children,
But what
it's a
about the
different story.
kids?
Yeah, what about the children? There have been, especially for females here, there has been a huge increase in female suicide because of social media. And then on the other foot, for the other sex, I want to male pornography addiction is something that apparently is like a growing topic of concern.
Oh, I have thoughts on that.
You have what?
I have thoughts on that.
Yeah,
I
hit us.
do.
Share. Do tell.
Okay. Well, first, let's talk about the female side, just so I don't single out. 'Cause I've done yeah, I think it also is a problem. It's definitely kind of like palpable because on the same way, like, so there was this girl that I used to know in high school, right? And she very clearly had an eating disorder. Like, she was stick thin. And then one time, like, we were at like this burger place for lunch, and I was like, oh my God, we should get milkshakes. And she was like, yeah, I totally want a milkshake. And then I literally saw her stare at the board. And here in California, I'm not sure, is it like, do other states also do this? Where if like a restaurant has more than like 20 locations or something, they have to list the calories on the menu. Is that a thing in other
I
states?
don't know if they have to, but I know most of them do list calorie counts. It's like a pretty common thing to do, pretty much on every menu I've ever seen. So
Okay. And so the milkshakes were like, they were pretty high calorie, I think, because they're fucking milkshakes, you know, they're just fucking sugar. And I saw her look at it, and then when I ordered, she was like behind me in line, and she didn't get anything, and I was like, oh, I thought you wanted a milkshake, and she was like, no, I'm just not feeling it anymore. And I was just kind of like, oh, okay. And then like later that year, some of my classmates were talking about how they found her like eating disorder Twitter account, which is crazy. I was like, that's looking an invasion of her privacy, guys, because they were like showing me her tweets and
oh
stuff.
wow.
Um, but yeah, and then so like me and my classmates were just like looking at like the like you literally can just like search up eating disorder Twitter, you know, and it'll come up. And so we were just looking through the tweets. There were so many accounts of like teenagers, and there were some men there too, actually, but they were like teenage girls who were based, and it overlapped with like the self-harm Twitter too. A lot of them also posted like that stuff too about like harming themselves, and it was like a main focus of like hating their bodies and like wanting to destroy them because they didn't like how they looked, like mainly like a focus. It wasn't like, oh, you know, like there were the like girls who were like, oh, I just want to be skinny and pretty, you know, but there were also a lot of talk of like, I want to destroy my body because I don't like how it looks. And I'm like, that's crazy. So I can definitely see why like the female suicide rates have gone up. I think for that, um, like the statistic you're thinking about, it was for young girls, right?
Yeah,
Specifically.
yeah.
Yeah. I think
It,
it definitely does have a lot to do with body image and the way that things are presented on social media.
it's super well documented. This isn't like a groundbreaking. Oh my God,
No,
you
yeah.
know, it's been known for quite a while. Its effect on
Hmm.
young girls. It's super well known. It's one of the more prominent reasons it's been pushed for regulation. It didn't really hit me until just now, but I guess the kind of bigger problem is that social media can act as an echo chamber, and whether those feelings are positive or negative, when it's negative, it can be really bad. And there was an original philosophy. I think it was because of some studies they had done in the early stage. I mean, this technology is relatively new, and so the studies are still new. But one of the things they thought early on, and they brought this up during the hearing, specifically Zuckerberg, was that if you were feeling, you know, terrible, whether it was like an eating disorder or suicidal thoughts or whatever, the original
Hmm.
thought was if you didn't feel alone, then it would kind of help. So what it would literally do is push those things onto you. Where, you know, if you felt like self-harming, it would show you pictures of self-harm. If you know, were gonna purge or whatever in terms of an eating disorder, it would, you know, show those things to you. So that's been debunked now, and now we've learned that the opposite is true, where it's much better to cut people off from that content. Um,
Yes.
However, that is a form of regulation where they're stepping in to stop it from happening. And obviously,
Hmm.
X being known for not as much regulation, or the fuck God knows is what we're told, but um, I can very easily see how it still is operating on that old philosophy where it's acting as an echo chamber for these people, and so uh, their vices are being compounded, which is it's
Hmm.
just terrible for sure.
I I do agree, and it's like it's weird. It's come to this point where it's like when people try to say like, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't be posting this stuff," people are like, "Oh, what? So I should just stop being mentally ill? Thanks, got it." Like, no, girl. We're not saying that. We're saying maybe you should remove yourself from these circles and make an effort to get better, you know? Because again, like you said, it's like an echo chamber. If that's all you fucking see on your fucking social media, how are you gonna stop like and separate yourself from that and attempt a path to recovery, you know?
No, I
If it's
understand.
still on your mind 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. Um.
And also for the male porn addiction,
mm,
my thoughts on that. I think it's insane. I don't think it's just a male thing. Well, I mean, like, sure, the statistics probably show that it's more prevalent in men, but I want to say that also it affects women too. Maybe not to the greatest extent that it does men, but that's like a whole different like societal topic. You know, I think it's like the same thing as when we were talking about how if you feel, you know, lonely and sad and you have this bot to like tell you, "Oh, I love you," you know, or whatever to like be nice to you, make you stop feeling lonely. You're not really dealing with the root of your problems, right? And I kind of feel the same way about people who are addicted to porn. It's like maybe they're bored, maybe they're stressed in their lives, maybe they are just lonely, and they keep turning to this like form of media to remediate those feelings and make them feel better until it like warps their sense of reality, I feel like. And at that point, like it's it's just like I don't know. It's to me it's like kind of I don't know if this is like too out there. To me it's kind of akin to like fucking drinking alcohol to deal with your problems and then you can't feel happy without alcohol anymore, you know? Like you can't be in a social situation hanging out with your friends without drinking to have fun, you know? Does that make sense?
no, it does. It makes sense. I think there are definitely multiple reasons that it's become a thing. At first, when I first heard about it, I was like, I was in the just turn it off, like what the
I
hell are you guys
know.
doing? But it's a growing topic. It's another one where um it's in with the regulation for people younger than 18 or even 16, where it's just the access is there. It's so free. And how do we expect these kids to have discipline? How do we expect them to get off Twitter when they're feeling like self-harming and, viewing more self-harm stuff? Or how do you
Mhm.
regulate the males to not go and look at some titties? Like, you know, obviously,
And I
yeah.
don't think it's a complete problem with porn, by the way, because it's like, you know, there used to be porn mags. Um, I think it's fine, you know, to wanna DJ mix it up sometimes. Um, but it's just like when it's a constant thing and your only source of joy or pleasure, it's kind of like, man, you have issues.
For
Get
sure.
help. But people don't see a problem with that, which is what I feel like is weird. It's like I feel like a lot of men get defensive. I'm using men, but I think people get defensive when the topic of porn is brought up. They're like, it's just porn, you know? Like, get over yourself. Stop being a prude. Like, okay, virgin, you know? And it's like, that's not really the point. It's not that, like, the people who are against it are being prudes. It's like, they're like, why is this the only way you can feel pleasure? You know? Like,
Is
why
it
do you
safer than going out and dating?
did you say is it safer than going out and dating?
Yeah, emotionally safer. You're always gonna get that hit of dopamine and that
Mhm.
release. You're not gonna face rejection. You're not gonna face any physical harm because that unfortunately is also something to consider. Or ridicule, or have to deal with drama, or anything.
Mhm.
It's just
Um, I feel like in this case we're talking about like porn addiction. I have no qualms with like watching porn when you want to masturbate or just masturbating in general. But I think it's kind of like when it's an addiction. Like when you
I mean,
can't
anything could
stop.
be True. I mean, everything is good in moderation, right? But
Mhm.
I'm just saying, I think that's one of the reasons why it's so addictive is because it's there and it fulfills a very specific, like a very specific emotional sort of satisfaction and physical satisfaction that
Mhm.
nothing else really can. Like, if you want to, like, say, eat something good, you have like a billion options. If you want to get off, like, okay, you either go out and date and find a partner or you masturbate. Like, that's it. uh, just- I'm just saying,
What are
like,
some of the other options you'd like to see in place? Please tell us. What are
I
some
don't
of the
think
other menu? What should be on the
I'm not
menu?
saying I'm not saying I wish there were
Well,
other options. I'm just saying
I
like
mean,
that is why I think it's so addictive, and especially in men who, with, testosterone have higher sex drives and all this other stuff. Like I think it's just a thing. It's not like a bad thing, it just is a thing.
yeah. I don't know. To me, it's interesting also because it's like, well, okay, I feel like with people who are specifically addicted to porn, it's because there's something negatively impacting their life, right? That the porn is like a substitute for, right? Like I don't think you become addicted to jerking it and like jerk it like 4 times a day because you lead a happy life, right? Like is
I
that
don't
like
know.
outlandish to say? Like
I
I
mean, like,
think
I
there's
think in general what you're saying is true, but I don't know. I have no idea. This is such a weird topic.
right.
It's so. I, I hmm. I think there are
It's
so
very
many
very
reasons.
nuanced.
Yeah, there are so many reasons behind people sitting around and doing it. So, I mean, you could very easily just say, "Oh my God, like it's just kind of harder to get a job right now." You know what I mean? So because I'm staying at home. Um,
Yeah.
you could say it's
Um,
because of the content that's being pushed to young men on social media. Like, I think you could easily attach like a billion different reasons to this. I think everything you guys have said is really valid. It's just I don't know if we have enough information to really pinpoint it and go, yeah, this is the specific reason and this is the specific solution. I honestly have no idea. I don't know. I really don't.
okay, let me play devil's advocate, and by
Sure.
devil's I mean like SJW keyboard warrior. Um, like I feel like the what about the implications of porn addictions making men like desensitized to women and respecting women? Like what about like you know when the Barbie movie came out and there were a whole bunch of like fuck ass men who were like Margot Robbie's mid. She's kind of ugly. And everyone was like, "Damn, the porn really rotted your brain that bad." What do you guys think of that?
Um, that one's also hard too. The internet in general, when people are trolling or in this case cyberbullying, I personally, I always go from the mentality of like I don't care, like I don't listen to that shit. It's all like a joke. Like nothing said ever made any sense. It's like one of the first lessons I learned when I get on the internet was to, one, don't talk to strangers, and if you did, don't share any personal information, and two, just ignore the comment section and like whenever you're getting flamed. At the same time, I also played League. I hate to bring this up, but I played League in front of like 30,000 people, and like I played poorly, and I would get flamed by 30,000 people. You kind of learn to stop giving a fuck, you know. like,
Mhm.
like it's not a big deal. However, I think there are like lots of reasons people are um typing like that or talking like that outside of
Mhm.
just normal classic cyber talk, internet speak. One, I think the dating problems is kind of bubbling a bit for both sides, and I don't think it's just men who again, I think it comes back to social media where these like fantasies are living out on our screen and we see it and we're like, wow, why can't I have that? That's what I want.
Mhm.
I want super hot, sexy Kate Upton or fucking, I don't know, Margot Robbie or some chick with massive tits, and it's the same with women who are like, I want a guy who's rich and is
Mhm.
Chris Hemsworth. Like, I think it's happening on both sides, and I think part of the problem is social media, where um, people's, I don't want to say their standards are getting high, but I do think there's a lot of delulu people who aren't willing.
Unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, exactly, unrealistic expectations, where they're, instead of trying to uh, make a life with the other person or work on it and focus more on the emotional building aspect, there's just like, oh, you don't meet these fantasy requirements I have in my head because I saw a video one time on TikTok, you know?
I think
Um,
that's actually really true.
yes, so then they go online and that's the outlet. There's just a lot of bubbling frustrations between the two groups, and they're just kind of pointing at each other. It's the red pill podcast thing. I cannot believe every
Oh
single
no.
time I bring this up, I think it's a dying thing, and yet I keep finding out that it's actually growing. Uh, where they just sit around and like have these cultural debates, I guess, social cultural debates on which sex is at fault here. But I genuinely think it's both sides being very ridiculous. And there are some other problems too, where not like hookup culture in general, but the availability, having access to so many people at one time through the internet is kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Like you have that idea that at any moment you could find another person. And in
Mhm.
general, I think all of these factors are just leading to I don't need to put effort into this relationship because, I can just go watch porn, I can just go watch
Someone
videos on my
someone else.
phone, somebody else is there. Like the reasons for working on a relationship versus not has diminished greatly, and it's causing so much discontent and contention between the two sexes that yeah, when there's a man doing a manly thing, I mean it's the same thing, right? Like with Chris Pratt, like people were kind of going at him because I don't know why they were going at him, but
Mm,
he's there. It's just both sides where uh,
let's
battling the
bring back
sexes.
the American nuclear family. No, I'm kidding. Um,
uh, Miss Lesbian, hello.
no, I'm
Yeah.
kidding. I think it's definitely interesting because when we think, well, like when you try to think, okay, well, this is how things are now, right? You're saying that we're moving towards a lot of dating problems because a lot of people have unrealistic expectations, right? But
Sure.
then when you try to analyze the past, well, what were the dating expectations like before? It was the American nuclear family, right?
Hmm.
A wife that stays at home, uh, a husband who brings in the money, and two kids, preferably, right? And like a beautiful suburban home. Oh, is that like that's? I don't really think like I don't know about you guys. That's not really something that I feel like we should work back towards. I feel like there were a lot of problems there too, not just for the man, also the woman, because like, or I mean, not just for the woman, also the man. Because like sure, whatever, the housewives generally unhappy because there was like a culture of not really treating women right. We all know that, right? Like, is not much to argue on that.
Can
But also, I feel like
it
unless you want to argue on it,
No, I'm not gonna argue against it. I'm just I also wonder how happy the men were too. It's not like you
no,
drink
no, that's
alcohol because you're
exactly the
super
point I
happy,
was gonna get
you know.
to. That's
So
exactly what I was gonna get to. Is I think because of the unrealistic expectations of for men to perform masculinity and be the breadwinner and have this like strong image, I don't think they were happy either. Like I think when hot take, but I think when people are rude to other people, so in this case, the husbands treating their wives unwell, there's probably also something emotionally wrong with the men. Whereas they also weren't completely happy. They were also bending to society's will, and maybe it wasn't exactly what they wanted. Like I was gonna bring that up. I don't think it's like men were oppressing women, and that's all there is to say. I think it was like a two-sided thing. Like
I feel
like the society was asking things of both of these people and maybe it wasn't exactly what they wanted and they were both unhappy and treating each other unwell.
for sure. I think it's also just a human thing. Well, it's very easy to like look back and go, "Wow, times were really awful for men and women," or like specific groups. But I
Yeah.
assure you, 50 years from now, they're going to look back at us and think the exact same thing. Like, there are things that all of us are doing today that people are going to look back on and go, wow, you guys were barbaric animals. Like, it's part of evolution in general and social evolution. And one of the
Mhm.
easiest things to point to is just psychology. Like, it's so fucking insane how little we knew about psychology until the past
Yes.
20 years. Um,
Yes, definitely.
so, you know, I,
That was exactly the point I wanted to make. Is I think we should move past red pilled. Is it a man's fault or is it a woman's fault? And let's look at our individual selves and the expectations that we set on other people that might be unrealistic. It's not, do men expect unrealistic things from women? Do women expect unrealistic things from men? Is how do people, how they've grown up and interacted with society, how do they set expectations onto people who they want to be their life partners, and how is it like too heavy of a burden, like when to think about when you're expecting too much from someone and when you're actually being mistreated.
yes, and I like that response. However, people are not budging. They will eventually. I think like we kind of went through a social evolution here in terms of sex and like its roles and the roles people play in society, and it kind of it threw like this crazy monkey wrench into it where you have people kind of diversifying across the board and people are trying to figure out how to navigate that because obviously when there are set roles it becomes quite easy to understand your place and like how you need to interact, whether it's a correct way or an incorrect way. It's very easy to go, okay, this is how I approach a woman. Obviously from a guy's perspective, this is how I approach a woman, this is how I live my life.
Mhm.
I get a job, if I can make a lot of money, I approach a woman. I say, hey, what's going on? I'm gonna take you out to dinner, and I'm gonna hold the door open for you, and I'm gonna call you hot
Mhm.
stuff, and uh, this is what I do. This is what I've seen on TV. This is what I see my father do. This is how I know men live their lives. And vice versa for a woman, it's I know what I do in life. I look pretty, and obviously I'm going back a few years, or quite a few years, but
I don't
um,
know, I think that's still kind of a prevalent thought right now, actually.
sure, I knew a lot of women in my first year of college whose single goal was to find a man to marry. That was their goal.
Dude,
And I,
honestly, in
you
this economy, no, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. That
know,
was a joke.
I mean, it still is a goal for some people, but that's also kind of the point is where now that's not, eyes have been open where men are realizing, oh my God, there are women out there who, I don't want to go outside and work and they're willing to work and support me and I can just be at the stay at
Yes,
home dad.
male
And
life.
that's like so fantastic for some people, like that's great. And then you have on the opposite side where women are like, oh my God, I can go out into the workforce and I can be a fucking boss ass bitch and I can support my man. And then you
Mhm.
obviously have the more aggressive types where it's like, I can go and work and find a man who's going to make me a lot of money. And you have the guy type who's like, I can go to work and make a lot of money and find a woman who's also going to work. So there's just been this
Right.
huge upheaval where people are kind of filling out these empty spaces that weren't filled before,
Mhm.
and people's preferences it's hard now to like kind of align because it's not simple. You don't know when you're sitting across from someone what kind of role they want to play, or um, what kind of role they want you to play. It's not obvious anymore. So I think that
Yeah.
also kind of plays a part in what's going on right now, and I think it'll even out as we like all grow up. But yeah, it can be really hard. It can be really hard. I think it's been a pretty prevalent thing for me when it comes to dating, where I quickly find out like, okay, this person is looking for this specific type of role to be played either on my part or for me to treat them in a specific way. And it's been
Mhm.
across the board very varied. You've got the fucking traditional women, and you've got some very on the opposite end, some very nuanced women. I've even
Modern.
yeah,
Modern.
modern, sure. Um, so yeah, I think that plays a pretty big role.
This is like a little bit off topic, so if you have more to say, tell me to shut up and keep talking. You can keep talking.
No, you're good. Let's hear it.
Okay. it's like kind of on topic. Because you were talking about traditional women, and I was like, ooh, trad wives. I
Trad.
think that's. I've been okay. So there's this woman called Nara Smith on TikTok who what she does is I think I don't know her political standing, but she's very rich. Her husband is very rich. They have this beautiful kitchen, right? And some cute kids or whatever, and she's currently pregnant. And her content that she puts out is her in like a very pretty, expensive dress, right? And she makes food from scratch for her kids. So like there was like this video that blew up of hers where her kid was like, "Oh mom, like I want a PB&J." And so she started on this like fucking 8-hour journey to make bread from scratch for her kid, make jam from scratch for her kid, make peanut butter from scratch for her kid, and then assemble it all and give the kid the peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a like a in a trad wife way. Like she made the bread. She didn't just like go to the store and buy it. Like she put her like motherly care into it or whatever, you know? Right. I think the message is fine, you know. I don't have a problem with well, I in theory I don't have a problem with trad wives, right? You know? Like if people want to be homemakers, that's perfectly fine, right? Um, but the whole thing is like people are talking about it where it's she's selling an idea to people and like it's like people are starting to see this pushback on feminism. Crazy. I'm sorry if this topic is like I don't know, a little too like leftist or whatever, but like people are seeing this pushback on feminism because ordinary women who, because, there was like this whole movement where like most women nowadays would probably call themselves feminists, right? Or somewhere along, because it's a spectrum, but they would like, say they're for women's rights for the most part. Because there was like a whole movement in like the 2010s and stuff like that, whatever. Moving on. So like there's this pushback now because people see that content and they're like, well, that's what I want. I just want to be a homemaker. But feminism is making me, you know, go to work and have a job. And I don't want to go to work and have a job. I just want to be a wife and take care of kids and make food at home. Um, and so there's like people fighting online about whether, it's actually feminism that's like pushing you to go to work and have a job, or if it's the fact that the economy is forcing you to go to work and have a job and it's not feminism. And these trad wife content creators are selling you an idea and making profit off of it because they are. She got like millions of views, I think, on that video. So she made money off of it. But they're selling you like an unachievable idea for like the average middle class person, where they have this beautiful kitchen, beautiful dresses, all the time in the world to make this bread, and it's not achievable for middle class women. But instead of looking at it as a monetary thing, they look at it as like, oh, feminism is ruining society, right?
Um,
What do you think about that?
I mean, there's a lot to break down there. As far
Yeah.
as her like advertising her lifestyle, I think that's just a social media thing. Can very easily
Mm-hmm.
be applied to like the opposite side. So sure.
Yep.
um,
Yeah.
as far as feminism, I don't. Okay, I agree, but not like in a bad sense. I agree that feminism has made it so that women have to join the economy, or more women have to join the economy. However, I don't think it's like I'm not like hatefully blaming feminism for that. I think it's a good thing. And I think it's the
Mhm.
only way to solve the problem of women want to join the workforce. Because expecting, 50% of the population to just jump into the workforce and for pay to stay the same and for, housing to be the same, like that's just not there is no government or country that could, actually handle that
Well,
much.
here's the thing is, do you think that because a lot of women have joined the workforce now, most women nowadays work.
hmm
Um, do you think that the decrease in pay is because women join the workforce?
Yeah. but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think
I
that's
would
just
argue that it's not because, you've seen the decrease in pay in lower class families and middle class families, but you know where you haven't seen a decrease in pay? The top 1%. You
yeah.
know?
But the counter argument for that is like how many CEOs, how many jobs are there for CEOs? How many like jobs available? Not that many.
Well, it's
So
not. Top 1% isn't just for CEOs,
I
but
know, but my point is like the top 1% is the top 1%. So I don't know. There's probably some middle ground here. Capitalism, obviously, these countries, these companies are gonna take advantage of the fact that women want in the workforce, but not
I
because
really
you're women trying to join the workforce. They're just because it's people who want to join the workforce. Oh, you want to join?
well,
That's cool. We'll
well,
cut wages across the board and split them between you all. Like, so I think
no,
there's a middle ground, but like, yeah.
I
Also,
feel like
oh, good.
generally, no, don't shut up. Um, I don't I would have to do actual research. I personally really do not think that people joining the workforce has that huge of an impact on wages that we've seen happen now, Like I really thoroughly do not believe that it was because of the influx of people. And I do believe it was because of like decisions made by those companies to cut wages. Because I think that I don't know. I just really don't believe that the influx of workers would severely cut wages like that in the
Sure.
way that we've
Sure will. I
and
mean, like you can just even take the past probably like 5 years where they've done this epic push for cutting down on full-time work. So instead of, giving you your 40-hour opportunity, they'll just give you half. Why?
Mhm.
Because it's cheaper for them. They don't have to pay benefits. They're corporations.
Yeah.
Like again, I'm not blaming women for joining the workforce as like a, go back to your homes and stay in the kitchen.
No, no,
I,
no. I know what you're saying. I know it's not it doesn't have anything to do with gender, and you were just speaking in a general sense
yeah,
of quantity. But yeah, I still just think because you're saying okay, well they don't want to spend money on benefits.
sure. And now they
I
don't have to. Now they can.
they
Hey, now
don't they don't want to spend money on benefits because they want more profits
yeah,
for the higher ups. So
sure.
it's not a question as to can everyone have a job and be paid a fair wage. They can. It's do the companies want to do that? No, they don't. So I don't think my point is like the money's there to
I know
accommodate
I know
for
what you're saying. People are blaming feminism when they should be blaming the companies, which I don't disagree
yes.
with you. I think is true. However, I
Yeah.
think the cause was that, and now we move on from that. We don't sit there and try and go backwards. We go forward, right? Like, so
I want to say I now this is just speculation in my personal opinion obviously. I feel like this whole thing has been I wouldn't say anything I've said is actual factual. You'd have to do your own research, but I feel like if women never join the workforce, the way that capitalism is kind of set up to be, where you want to maximize profits, I think it would have gone that way anyways. Maybe it would have taken a longer time. Maybe there would have been like more of a cushion where we haven't seen like you would have seen the middle class because you know how the middle class has been like slowly dying out.
well, there are lots of reasons for that, and I don't think that has
Oh
much to
yeah.
do with women joining the workforce. That has to
Oh
do
no,
with
I've moved on.
okay,
Well, not moved on, but like side note, I'm just saying that like yeah, I wasn't saying that women had to do. I'm saying like that just the way that things are, I think it's kind of set up in a way where eventually wages were gonna be like sliced the way they are now. Like it just it's not it's not really about people joining the workforce or anything about that. It's just the way that companies want to maximize profits where it was just destined to happen anyways. Whether the same like amount of people were in the workforce as there were in like the 50s to now, like I think it would have just happened anyways.
Yeah, companies are gonna do whatever makes them the most amount of money. So if they can find any excuse in the world to cut pay or keep pay low, like it's
Hmm.
not like you're saying something that's groundbreaking. There's been a huge
No, I
push.
know I'm not saying anything that's groundbreaking.
Well, I just mean there's evidence for what you're saying in terms of like
Hmm.
the government pushing for an increase in wages. We've seen a lot of red states push their wage. Like here in Florida, we saw them increase minimum wage by I think it was like $6 or $5, some shit.
Oh shit,
Florida.
what is it?
So I think it's gone up $1 a year until it hits $15 in 2024 2026 I think. Um
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Well,
and
that's
that's
a
been
win for Florida.
for sure. And it's been a
Still
common
not
thing.
really a wage, but
It's been a common thing across the board where they've had to up wages. It's the amount of
hmm
causes for poor pay recently. It's not. I mean, we're so far removed from
it's
women
a
joining the
million
workforce. Yeah, like COVID and I mean, even just the
yeah,
world events going on and inflation and blah 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 blah. But I think we're
yeah,
very far removed from the whole women joining the workforce being like a problem. I think
yeah.
it is what it is when women have to work now. It's like yeah, I mean that kind of should have been like that in the first place. You know what I mean? Like I don't really think you should always have the option to be financially independent. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, it is what it is. Get a
I
job.
agree.
We-
Women out there, just go get a fucking job.
Go get a job, you fucking liberals.
More like you trad wives. Go get a
Yeah,
fucking job. No, I'm kidding. You know what? I kind of agree. It's kind of a sweet fantasy, getting to stay home and just like
sure.
have a whole bunch of time to yourself, except not really because there's a lot of labor that goes into being a trad wife, but the fantasy's there, and I totally get it.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting that people are being convinced that feminism is the problem. Really not.
Uh, again, I think it's just them looking back versus looking forward. They just hate change. So when
Yeah.
change happens, they look for the most immediate cause and go, why can't we just go back? Like, I hear a lot when it comes to inflation. It's like, why aren't prices going down? It's like that's not how inflation works, you dildo. Like,
I
prices are
can't
never
move
going down. That's
5%.
that's not how life works, dude. Prices are gonna stay the same. You just have to get wages to go up, and like this is the new norm. Sorry, we don't live in the 1940s anymore, where Big Macs are 50 cents. That's just not reality. It's not how it works. Prices don't go down after going up like that. Like, yeah, it's just a human thing to be like, I want things to go back the way they were, and you know,
Yeah.
it's just not. It's just not
Seek
realistic.
comfort.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, yeah. Social media, man. What are you gonna do? There
It's
is some irony here, where as capitalism gets perfected. I don't know if that's the right word, but as capitalism becomes so advanced, and we move to um, AI's automation in terms of automation, the push for them regulating resource or mining resources, and um, then moving to manufacturing and production. I love Sam Altman did a post where he got like all the greatest AI minds together and they like were trying to propose some solutions to the problems that AI will cause. One of them being mass layoffs, which we've already seen quite a bit of. Pretty much this year, we've every translator is going to lose their job. Our phone's going to
oh
be yeah, it's crazy. There's been a lot of jobs that have been completely removed from the market, and I don't think people have realized it. Amazon has this huge push right now for humanoid robots. You can already find them. They're already replacing people all over the place, and it'll only increase. And this year, we're gonna see people get laid off like crazy and replaced with AI. And we're only 2 months in here, and we've translators have
I'm
all lost their jobs. Sorry, it is what it is. Yeah, everyone here is going to be able to pick up their phone, ask it to translate language for you, and it's going to be able to do it in real time. When you're on a phone with someone who doesn't speak
I
English,
mean, like you low-key can already do that with Google Translate. And it's clunkier than what I think you're imagining, but like, we're already kind of there.
What I imagine already exists. So like people kind of the thing about AI is that it's not code. It's not the same thing as code. So the programs that
Hmm.
we're used to, like Suri and I don't want to say her name 'cause she'll wake up in my room, but but even Google's translation system, that's done with code. It's not done with AI, and those systems are going to get
Hmm.
replaced with AI. And the AI systems are, at least when it comes to human language, it's way more powerful in understanding context and like how to actually speak. But even
Hmm.
just beyond that, it can also interpret you in real time in your voice. It can change your language in your voice. I mean, it can even change
Hmm.
the video. Like if you record yourself, it can um, change the way your
You know what
voice
I
moves.
think is interesting about that is what the implication would be for endangered languages. Because I'm sure there are a lot of translators who dedicate their lives to keeping a certain language alive, mainly probably indigenous languages. What would that mean for them? I feel like they would still, or like would they be put out of work? Would
Translators?
um yeah, or no, I mean translators specifically who are dedicating their work to keeping like an endangered language alive, like
They
an indigenous language that was almost wiped out.
they won't be needed, the translators. One of the things that it's called an emergent behavior, which is pretty much when AI does something it wasn't like intended to do. And one of the things it did
Oh,
right away was learn a language that it wasn't taught to know. It was like one of the
nice.
first things it did was an emergent ability. Um, so yeah,
Do you
like
know what that language was?
I don't remember.
Off topic,
It
kind
was
of
an
anecdote.
Asian language. I don't remember which one it was. Um, but it wasn't trained on it and it just kind of learned it, and it's in other fields it's also um it's learned certain hieroglyphs and like ancient languages that it take years
Oh,
to
that's cool.
translate. Oh yeah, it's crazy good at it. It's so good at understanding human language. um so yeah, it would replace them, and
Great.
it probably would be good. Like I know it sounds bad for the translator, but for the people who are indigenous and their language is rare and people don't know it, it'll be good for them because all of a sudden, assuming they want to communicate with the outside world, now they can, and
Yeah.
their language would be
Well,
immortalized in some way. You know.
there's that, and you think about it in a way of like history, and like, well, now we could have documents of these languages, but also it's kind of like I know in some indigenous cultures there are only stories that are spoken through word. They've never been written down in the way that they're carried down through generations is simply by telling your children, and that's the only reason they're known. I feel like the cultural implications for that would be interesting. Like, do people want their languages immortalized like that? It's
uh
interesting.
I don't know. I don't know if they do or not. I'm sure Germany isn't happy about some of their events being immortalized, but like
Oh yeah.
history's history.
Mm,
Like it is what it is. Like,
that's true.
there'll always be good and bad for things being immortalized. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, uh. But yeah, um, I can't remember how this started. AI content, AI taking jobs.
What are we talking about? I don't know. I'm cooked though. I think I need to change my major probably.
I don't. There's
No, I'll figure it out. I've got time.
yeah. I don't think you do, but
Mm,
I don't want to discourage you. I don't think you do.
no, it's okay.
I think teaching and um
No, I don't want to.
I
I
think
don't want to teach.
teaching is one of the areas where we'll be hit right off the bat. I think it'll be one of the first areas. Uh,
Okay, well, that's not gonna be me.
it's not
No,
going to
I'm
be
kidding.
you.
Yeah, I don't want to be a teacher with my degree. That's
Oh, what are you
because
aiming for? Some kind of content creation?
oh, it's really interesting. question. I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like there's a lot currently that you could do. Maybe not in the future, as you were saying, AI is gonna take over my job, and kill me. But I don't know. Maybe hopefully the dream is to work some sort of stupid office job with a large company and type up words for them. Specifically in what, I don't know. I could be like a technical writer, but that's probably gonna be taken up by AI.
Yeah.
I do think in the certain like artistic aspect of writing, I don't think it's gonna be the same. I think it can get pretty damn close, but at the end of the day, like we are the blueprint, right? AI is taking inspiration from us. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe there will come a time where like it becomes so technologically advanced that it's like completely a mind of its own, but for now it has a mind of its own using stuff that we make. So
A lot of people are banking on that very early on. This whole like AI sentience thing. I don't think we'll get there anytime
listen,
soon.
I'm just hoping that like this isn't gonna go very far during my lifetime, and it's
Oh, it
for
will.
someone else to, to
Just think about like how quick technology in terms of like social media has evolved within just between
That's true.
our
That's true.
generations. Like it's insane. Even just AI in the past few
Oh,
years has evolved so crazy. I also remember what we were talking about Sam Altman and the geniuses getting together and proposing um sort of they proposed some radical shit, and a lot of it was having to do with how the government needs to adapt to these changes and even the job market.
hmm.
Um, but yeah, so
Have you ever seen the movie Wally?
I love Wally. It's one of my favorite movies. It's so cute.
What do you think the deal was with the morbidly obese people?
Ooh, ooh,
Like,
ooh.
do you think they were rich, or were they like did all humans like decide on like being communists and just going to space and like all having access to food and TV? Like, what do you think the deal was?
Uh, no, clearly there was a corporate like takeover, right? By and
No,
large, was like
it
the
was Elon Musk and
yeah
his
that
rocket.
yeah it was Elon. I mean, Elon is he's already put forth a document that says that when they colonize Mars, the occupants that they send there will not answer to any government on Earth.
Oh, so they'll be answering
To
to
him,
Elon Musk
yeah,
government.
yeah. He literally
I think
said
I'm
that in the
good.
document. So
I
right,
think I'll stay on Earth, bro.
I don't. I want off. I want off.
Oh, okay, you want to answer to Elon Musk?
I mean, I would rather
He's
Elon.
gonna make you wear X merch.
Yeah,
He's gonna be on
probably.
clothing except for like a T-shirt with the huge X logo on it.
I see a divide in people who are, content with consuming endless amounts of content um, curated by, artificial intelligence tailored specifically to their needs, and then those
Mm-hmm.
who um, want to venture forth and colonize the rest of the planet or the rest of the galaxy. And I think so. That's kind of what they were talking about is how we would actually have to move towards a more socialistic style of government where there's a UBI and everyone just kind of gets paid, automatically determined by the government, while AI just does all this shit for us.
I mean, what if we just like went back to like a barter and trade system? just to throw a silly little idea out there.
uh, yeah, what?
You're literally like fuck that, bro.
Hell no, dude. I want the robots to do my work for me, and I'll just tell them what to do. Put me in Minecraft mode,
Yeah, but
please.
what if you could Minecraft mode? What if you could just like make one little sweater and then get like a month's worth of Minecraft VR paid, I guess.
Yeah, they. So that's kind of what it would look like, I think. Um, where people would have like contract, like it would be there would be billboards, and it's all contract work. So there will be
Mhm.
a person who's looking to have a shirt design, and then they would, you as a designer would click on that contract, and then they would pay you for your work, and then pretty much AI just handles the production and the resource gathering parts of it, and then humans just kind of act as the designers and the control factor. Blah 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 blah. Future, future, future.
Mhm. Well, maybe I'll go into plumbing.
Yeah, we do need
I
more
feel like you'd
plumbers.
still need that.
Yeah,
Right? Like,
so the
I'd
humanoid
probably
robots.
make big bucks.
You can right now. A lot of people don't do those those
Yeah, I
trade work
know.
jobs. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's nice that there's still that people are being rewarded for their hard work, and it's not just like, you know, because there's not everybody can go to college and get a quote unquote good job, whatever that means. So I think it's still good that there's still value in like blue collar work.
Yeah, it'll be that way for quite a while. I think we'll actually see those jobs increase in value, continue their increase in value, just because
Mm-hmm.
nobody wants to work them, and thankfully capitalism rewards that type of activity. The lack
Yeah.
of supply.
There also isn't or there isn't good automation for it yet. There's a higher technical barrier to get those things automated.
Yeah.
You'd
Yeah.
need like very advanced robotics or some other type of machinery to get that.
No, you're
So,
100% correct.
but they're not safe forever, baby. We're all gonna be automated at one point. Let's go.
Guys, we're all cut. It's
Look, I'm
okay.
just telling you, the world of Final Fantasy X didn't seem so bad before the giant sin monster showed up. Okay.
Explain this
I
world
mean,
of Final Fantasy X, please. I'm
yeah, what do
unfamiliar.
you thought? I'm sorry, I've never played Final Fantasy.
Oh, well, okay. Well, the long story short of it is that basically, like at the start of the game, there's a society where like nobody works because everything, literally everything, is automated. Like food is infinite, like pleasure is infinite. There's only one thing that humans can do, like, or there's a few things. You can party and you can fucking play slash watch sports, and that's like
Let's
all anybody ever
go.
does. And then basically like this monster, it's called Sin, shows up, and it's supposed to be like the embodiment of like how the society's grown weak and lazy and has rotted from the inside, and it destroys everything, and then that's kind of like where the game starts.
Well, I hope that happens to us. It'd be funny.
What's crazy is I think people don't realize that we've had stuff like this happen before, where it's about economies of abundance versus what's the opposite word of abundance? Shortage of supply.
De- Shortage, deficit, I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. It's like, when Spain and England are running around colonizing the world, um, they were all so rich. And even if you were a peasant, it was mostly the peasants who were fucking, walking um into the king's throne room and was like, "Hey, man, I heard there's an unexplored island, to the west. If you give me a boat, I'll go and fucking claim it in your name." And they were like, "Here, bro,
Mhm.
take a boat, go for it." Um, and so I think it's been quite a while since we've had an economy of abundance pretty much anywhere in the world, just because everything's been claimed, and AI is people are predicting that AI will change our economies back to abundance. Not all of them, clearly, but some of them. America being, the biggest one, because USA, USA.
I mean, I don't know. We still have a lot of problems with poverty, so I,
Oh, to get worse before it gets better.
yeah,
Get way worse
and
before it
which
gets
is
better.
really scary to think about because it's like by worst, it means these people are gonna die of probably starvation from or like what's it when people die of like it being cold outside because they don't have shelter. I forgot there was
Hypothermia.
like yeah, there's like a specific word for it though. Besides like that's the condition that they get from being too cold, but it's like a word for when they die of um being exposed to. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart. But anyways, moving on. I don't need to know the word right now. Uh, People are gonna die. Probably, most likely. I don't know. I don't see like obviously the government doesn't really care about poor people, which not I don't really. You could have whatever stance you want on that, but they don't really. Um, and so we're just gonna see the gap widen, and people who are already at the bottom are gonna die because they're not gonna have any resources. And then I think things will change, but yeah, things are gonna get worse and people are gonna die. Probably, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think.
Part of the blog post was talking about the tech companies seem pretty aware of like this, and they don't want it to happen because the last thing they want is for them to be thrown from power, and they know that if people get too poor, that's exactly what will happen, which is why they kind of came out and said, hey, like, you guys need to be on top of this. And the government has already tested systems for UBIs and trying to make sure something it doesn't get that bad. But yeah, it is hard to tell how bad things will get. And maybe not in America, but very easily in other countries. I'm sure it'll be fucking awful. I'm
Well,
sure we're gonna have seen some shit that's like, just god awful.
you're saying maybe not in America, but as things are right now, people are already dying of extreme poverty. So
But it's much worse in other countries. America's like
that's true. I will
not near.
definitely agree with that.
It's pretty bad in other countries, even in just in Europe. Their inflation rates are higher. Their bills for energy just keeps going up and up and up, and there's a lot of reasons for that too. But it America has mostly kind of gotten by, not scot free. There's obviously been a drop in the middle class, but in other countries it's been a lot worse. All across the world, it's been a lot worse. So we've gotten a little lucky. I don't know how bad it'll get, but I know for sure in other countries it's gonna get fucking terrible. Oh, I don't
Hmm.
know. I'll say this, just jumping back to social media and like short form content. I love talking about AI, but that was not what this was supposed to, devolve into. Um,
Hmm.
is I have loved the rise in long form content. Joe Rogan actually brought this up too, and he like kind of predicted what he was saying. Like, as much as people love short form content, it will create the need for long form content in the form of podcasts. And we have
Hmm.
seen a growing amount of podcasts, and it makes me so happy because it means that there are some people who just want to hang around and like talk with people for hours, and I think that's so fantastic. It puts a little smile on my face. Well, there are
Yeah.
thankfully people do want some social interaction, genuine social
Oh,
interaction too.
yeah. No, I feel like people will always want that. In a way, even people who like to be alone. Think there's still ultimately that, albeit small, even if it's literally just to like go outside and then sit in a park and be alone, but there's people around you. I feel like people always want human interaction, at least a little bit. Like, I think you mentioned briefly like YouTube versus Twitch. Well, Twitch is popular because you get to interact with the content creator beyond a delayed comment that they may or may not see. Which again, like they may or may not see it on Twitch too, but it kind of makes you feel more like you're talking directly with them just because it's live.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's still a little. It's a step up above just like scrolling on TikTok, but you're not wrong.
Uh-huh.
Um, I just like. Have you guys seen the new uh Vision Pro, Apple Vision Pro?
I don't actually know what the fuck it does, but I've seen people like clowning on it.
So it's a VR headset is what it is. They don't call it that. Maybe they do actually. I don't know, but it
No, it's a
has what is it called when two Apple people call each other FaceTime?
yes.
Yes, so they have this like FaceTime mechanic where it basically recreates your face in the form of an avatar, and then you can talk to each other. Like it makes you look like you guys are talking in the same room as each other.
And that's kind of stupid.
No, I like it so much. I picture like this podcast where,
Really?
yeah, because like imagine, I don't, it makes it feel more personal. I like that shit where if like I would like was calling somebody and we could like, somewhat talk face to face. I think that shit is so cool.
Well, maybe that's our differences between how we grew up with social media. To me, it already feels pretty face to face through FaceTime or
Mm,
whatever. Um, so I don't know. That might be a generational thing. It might be just us being different as people. But I don't know. To me, it seems a little redundant. Like, well, we're already face to face when I'm looking at your face in a screen, and you're looking at mine. Um, I guess to you, it would just feel better if it seemed more realistic.
yeah. I mean, I would just
Like,
like, I think it'd be so cool if you had like y- a virtual environment in which you could talk to your friends and family whenever you called them up, and it was like they were right there.
bro, just download VR chat on Steam.
No, I hate VR chat. I've
No,
had only
VR
negative
is
experiences with
stupid.
VR chat. Oh my god.
It's
But
fucking stupid. I was joking. I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. I admire the technology, and I know Google has their own kind of software and hardware for this where it's more for like businesses. And I think
Hmm.
Meta is working on some similar stuff. But Ryan, what do you think? 'Cause I wonder if it is a generation thing or like if it's just the difference between our personalities. How do you feel about it?
Uh, hmm, I don't think it's a generational thing. I think I don't know. Maybe I don't know if I'd call it generational. It's just people's opinions change slowly over time, but like they do change. People adapt to new technologies, new realities presenting themselves. It's just we're at a time now where it's not just like reality that's posing itself to us. It's, like virtual realities or like created, fabricated realities when it comes to things like these techs that can, kind of provide quote unquote whatever we want. So I'm kind of interested to see, I guess, what the human adaptation to that is going to be.
But you personally, would you use a technology where you could virtually be in the same room as somebody else, like when we're talking? Like, can you, if this podcast evolved to where we all put on VR headsets and it put us,
The option if the option was either that or not seeing you at all, yes.
okay,
Now, if I
okay,
had the choice between, oh, would I rather sit in a room with you or see you all in person? I'd rather see you in person.
Okay, but
Personally.
yes,
the point here is like I don't know if you have an Apple phone or whatever, but
heavily.
Face where you can like video call, right? My point, like what we were talking about, is I'm saying that the VR headset is kind of redundant because it's basically the same thing as a video call, but a little fancier, which, and Dougie was saying that, well, it feels like you're face to face. And so I was saying, like, maybe it differs because I already feel like it's kind of face to face in a video call, anyways, without the need of a VR headset. So that's why we were wondering if it was like a generational thing. Like, do you think the VR headset for a video call would be redundant, or do you think it would be cool to feel like you're actually face to face when you're like to feel like you're in the same room when you're video calling someone with a VR headset?
I don't know. I think it's I mean just at the start of that conversation, I do think the VR headset is different. Like as having worked with VR, before I joined the Navy and then now seeing where it's come after, I'll tell you like playing a game as simple as like super hot, like I can do that on my computer, sure, and I can do that on a screen. But man, when you put on the VR headset, it just feels way different. And I imagine that those video calls are like the same thing, where it just really like yes, I know I'm not actually there, but like the feeling of it is just insane. Is it gonna beat like immersive virtual reality where like you get like thrown in, become ones and zeros, and like If you like you like actually like move around and stuff, no, it's not that level of insanity, but like it's still like I think you'd be surprised if you gave it a try how much different it would feel. And if you ever have the opportunity to do it, even just to test it, I would 100% recommend it.
All right, all right. Maybe I'm the one being the boomer then, and not adjusting to new technology.
No, I think it's a legitimate thing because like I used to feel that way too, where like before I played Super Hot for the first time in VR, for example, like I thought it was like, oh, this is like some gimmicky thing. Like the last time I tried VR, it wasn't crazy, and then I tried and I was like, holy shit, this is like so fucking cool. I know I'm in my like room and I have like these poles set up and my computer's right over here, but like dang, like it just hits different. I promise. I promise. You just gotta try it, and then you'll really understand.
Is your opinion shaped by your experience with VR, Dougie?
Um, honestly, I mean, yes, but also I wasn't thinking about it in this context. I've used VR headsets before, and I thought it was really cool. I think my desire for it is more just like based on the intimacy, you know? I
Mm-hmm.
like seeing somebody's face react and move. Um, I love as much context as possible when someone is speaking. I hate texting.
Mm-hmm.
I really hate texting because you
Mm,
never understand the tone. And
yes.
even now when I say something and you guys aren't talking, I don't know if you're happy. I don't know if you're sad. I don't even know if you're paying attention. You know what I mean? So I think I just like the
Well, I've been
intimacy.
scrolling TikTok this whole time, so
There it is. See, there it
no, I
is.
haven't. I'm sorry. I was lying. I'm sorry. I thought it would be funny.
No, no, for sure. But yeah, I think I just like um the intimacy. And at the core of social media and the internet and cell phone service, that's what I like. I like being able to call my great aunt who's in fucking Germany and listening to her rant about how awful Donald Trump is. Like, like I want to see her fucking face burrow and get really pissed off and her face get red. You know what I mean? Like, the genuine human interaction being available to you at more times than is possible, I think is awesome.
Okay.
So that's mine. That's
Bringing up
mine.
my English major learnings here, you actually did a really good job with that. In convincing me. Maybe I am VR pilled now. You made a great into pathos. Right there. I didn't think about it that way about the human connection part because yeah, I get it. I get it now. Like, the story that you added about your great aunt.
Yeah,
It was actually pretty good. You did good with that.
thank you. But
Maybe I'm VR. I get it.
there's some goods. Obviously, VR. There's the other twist of
Or it could be sinister, but I see your call to the wholesomeness of it, of the
yeah,
human intimacy. I can see how that can be really appealing.
yeah, yeah. I like I like genuine human connection. I think it's something we're kind of losing out on as we're
Yeah.
flooded with content. So
hmm
yeah,
Which is
that's my take.
why I think that AI won't go that. I don't think it'll be that insane. I don't know. Maybe that's just me being optimistic. But I feel like people still want to be a part of a society that's run by humans, you know?
No. I
Oh, okay.
really I think you're in the minority here. I think I am also in the minority, and I'm sure Blackheart is too. Like I disagree. I think a lot of people, like you said, cannot be fucking bothered. They don't care who's running it. They they don't feel like they're in control, and they just just can't be bothered. They don't care. They'd rather sit around and either echo chamber with fake images and fake videos. And I think the divide is there where I'm not saying one is bad or good, but there
Mhm.
is a divide where some people care about the intimacy and want human connection, and they care about what's going on in their lives and what's in their control and what's not. I think there's a lot of people who don't give a fuck. I think there's plenty of people who just want to sit around and jerk off. I think there's a lot of people who want to sit around and play video games. I think there's a lot of people who just want to sit there and scroll. Like, I think they genuinely, no matter which option they were given, they would choose that every time. They don't care. They don't care about the information provided about it. They don't care. They would just genuinely choose that every single time. How many people are on
But
either side? I have no idea. But
like I'm saying, like, what aside from, like, people who would rather have a robo girlfriend jerk to them than have to, like, make, human connections, do you think those people, like, I think it's like a gray area. It can't be black and white where, yeah, I want my robo girlfriend, and that also means that I want a completely robot society where I have minimal to no human interaction, right? I want to say, like, I feel like, I don't know. Maybe I'm being optimistic. I feel like people do like the brief human interactions that they have. Not always, you can't generalize too hard, but I feel like most people would find themselves feeling unfulfilled if in their day-to-day life there was little to no human contact. And I mean that by, like, you know, you go to the grocery store and you don't fucking see anyone in there. And it's just like, those, like, Amazon stores where you just, like, scan your fucking hand or whatever. Are
yeah,
those real?
yeah. I mean, it's only obviously it's not like a super widespread thing right now, but
Yeah.
yeah, well,
Yeah, like I'm saying, like, like, I don't think, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong and judging humanity incorrectly, but I feel like even just the fact of, like, having other people in the grocery store with you, even if they are fucking annoying or loud, like, it like it chips away at your isolation a little. Like, it makes you feel real, I guess.
I think you strongly underestimate how how much the general human population actually cares about genuine,
Other people.
real human connection versus simulated. And I think again with social media, it's like, do I want to go out and get a girlfriend, or do I just want to, like, you know, live vicariously through a couple that is, posting videos? Like, I think you'd be surprised on how many people would choose that
I
second one.
probably would be surprised. I will agree with that.
Yeah.
Probably have jaw open in shock. Um, I don't know. It's just not personally what I align with, and I don't think you do either, right?
No, hell no. Absolutely fucking not. Like, again, I love genuine human connection. Um, and I hate this, like, idea of living in, or getting that satisfaction through simulated experiences versus real experiences. And on the flip of that, I think, what is there simulated experience is not bad, especially when you're doing it with others, which is why, going back to the VR headset thing, I think it's cool, because obviously we're not in the same room together, but you know it's simulated. There's at
Yeah,
least some form of human connection there when there wouldn't normally be. So I like the use of technology in that area versus the opposite. But I do think most people prefer the opposite, where it's like, do I want to go outside, meet a chick, have to kind of change myself a bit, or do I just want an AI girlfriend to pop up on my screen and tell me I'm pretty? You know what I mean? Like, and then I'm perfect in every
yeah.
way. So,
Well, you know, maybe some people would pick the TikTok girlfriend, I guess.
a lot of people would. I'm telling you. I mean, it's speculation, but I think a lot of
Uh,
people would very
well,
easily
that's
jump into that
that's just
simulation
sad,
boat.
man. That just makes me sad.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make you sad, but
No, it's okay. I don't know. I just it's very interesting. I know that, like, I don't know. It's a very interesting, like, anthropological thing. Like, where did we shift to, like, being okay with, like, when, I mean, I guess I don't know. I maybe we have never been good at taking criticism as human beings, and so then obviously the solution would be um TikTok girlfriend who tells me I'm perfect.
I mean, I think it's way more like primal than that, where it's just so like finding fruit back when we were our little ape selves or primate selves used to
Let's take this
be
back to monkeys.
yeah, that was like the pinnacle of our lifetime was finding a banana because of
Dude, that's still
how
the pinnacle of my lifetime,
yeah.
honestly.
Oh, back then it was great, and we got that little dopamine rush, and we lived for it. That was like our singular goal. We got the dopamine rush because there was so much calories in it, and it was great. And now
Mm,
it's dopamine is at the push of a button. So if some people are, okay with that, just you know, pull up a website and get your
I
dopamine.
think the only solution is zombie apocalypse. It's the only way to go. I think it would be fun. What do you like? I don't. Well, maybe not. Don't say never, but it would be interesting. What if we did reach like a completely like AI society where we all just like do fuck all and party all day because there's nothing better to do, and then like a zombie apocalypse happens? That would be funny.
Yeah, I will take care of it. It's fine. It'll be okay.
You would take care of it.
Yeah, yeah, I will take care of it.
You'd be out there with like a katana or something, you're just like slaying them.
Yeah, with my AI
That's dope.
girlfriend.
Yeah, you'd program her. Well, you wouldn't program her. She'd learn herself
Oh yeah,
how to
exactly.
use katana, and then you could use her metal body as a shield.
Yeah, it should be badass. I actually am working on a not an AI girlfriend, but they're called. There's a lot of push right now in the back end for virtual assistants. It's something like all the big companies are working towards, and like
Ooh.
personalizable. Is that a word? Customizable
Yes, yes, customizable
virtual assistants, and
or personalized. Person?
we're much
No, I think you were
closer.
right.
Yeah, personalizable. Is that a word? You're the English major. You
Personalized.
tell me.
It's personalized is the word.
Personalized.
Personalizable
Thank you.
is not a word, but personalized is. Okay.
Personalized virtual assistants. So we're a lot closer to AI girlfriends than and boyfriends. Sorry, females and gay men. Uh, but yeah, we're a lot closer than people think. We're very close.
God, I'm so ready to press a button and have my robo wife tell me I look beautiful today.
Right?
Actually dope.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't. I think I'm gonna be like a bitter old man, I guess, in the future. And like back in my day, we had dating apps where you could text a real woman.
Yeah, not anymore. Now you just tell the bot, hey, can you set it? Can you ask Alice out for me? Can you just go ahead and ask her out for me?
Not
It's
even
so funny.
that. Can you just be Alice for me? Can you like download her personality and just be her?
That's fucking creepy. I don't like that.
That
Um,
is, yeah, I don't like that either. But I don't. It's so interesting. There's definitely gonna be a lot of legislative debate over this because it's crazy.
it's already pretty much settled. There's already push now for making sure that your likeness cannot be used without your permission, which I
Thank
love.
God.
That was so fucking.
That's
That's so
so
good.
great.
Yeah, actually been very impressed with the U.S. How fast the U.S. has been when it comes to AI. They banned robocalls really quickly. They got on the deep fakes really quickly, and
That's good.
now they've gotten on making sure that we ourselves can monetize our own likeness, our own voices,
You
ourselves.
know, like that's kind of poetically beautiful in a way. You know, like maybe AI is the thing that will unite the parties.
I think it benefits us more than it benefits other uh, regions of the world because AI is
hmm
something that that's a lie. It'll benefit all countries, but for us in particular, where individualism is so prominent, it's like our thing, right? You want to come here and do what you want, and you have your individual rights, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Um, it it in particular allows us to extend that life goal to a great degree. Well, it can. Hopefully, we get there, and I think we will. Where all of a sudden, everything that makes you you is monetized. Um, you have the ability to monetize it, I guess is the better way to describe it. Versus, like,
Mhm.
say, China, where instead that technology is not being used for that purpose, it's being used for nearly the opposite, where, they push their singular goal, the CCP, I guess is the best thing to say, but where they push their singular goals across their entire population. It's very different. The way AI is being used across the world is very different. But I have been thoroughly impressed with how the U.S. is kind of aiming to use it. I really
Mhm.
enjoy it. And I
That's
think
good.
it's yeah.
I guess. Sorry, were you gonna say something else?
No, you're good. I'm just ranting about AI. Oh,
I think it's you would think because of what we know of our government, regardless of like what party you're partial to, um they definitely have a tendency to side with companies because of money, which is it's whatever, it's the nature of our government. But I also think that it's kind of predictable that they would want to also protect our likeness just because of
it's capitalism
what you were saying. Yeah,
in
capitalism, and
our
also
constitution.
because of hmm yeah, because of our just insane, like, I think like every American knows that this country is really about individualism and protecting your rights, right? Like that's our thing, right? Like liberty for
Freedom.
all. Yes, freedom. So, it's predictable, but it's also nice to see that it actually followed through and they didn't side with companies on that part, you know?
Yeah. Ryan, were you gonna say something? I thought I heard you break up there for a second.
No. Mm-mm.
Oh. Um, yeah, there's this bonus thing going on right now too, where our information about us, the stuff that's been collected, there's been a push to kind of regain our ability again to control that, to monetize that. So
Mhm.
I like the direction things are headed. I hope they keep going in this direction, and I think it's very different from the other regions of the world. Even the EU is taking um, a a different approach. But yeah, yeah. I
So
think
what you're saying is, "Rah, America, best country."
I mean not a perfect one, but it's there's a reason probably billions of people across the world their singular goal is to come to this country or for their
Mhm.
children to get to this country. There is
Yeah,
something to be said about it. So
I can definitely agree with that. Even if you know, I'm not America's biggest supporter. I think we've got issues, but I can also definitely see its appeals. I will not um discredit it for the things it has that are good, you know?
100%. Is there anything else you two would like to talk about before we close out here in terms of social media or AI?
Mm,
Not me. What about you,
uh,
Sarah?
wow. I think we talked a lot.
We did, yeah.
We had a lot to say.
Yeah, well, it's a big topic.
I don't
Social
know.
media is probably
It's so bad for children, guys. If you
yeah.
have kids, don't give them phones. Um, I don't know. It's just really depressing to see. Like, I don't know. I think they can be a helpful tool, but I don't think kids should be dependent on devices at all. I think it really impacts. Though everyone thinks it impacts their development. Like it's just a well known fact. So yeah, that's uh,
This your closing argument there? That's your
yeah.
marijuana.
Please get children off of
Your
phones.
little boomer speech there. Go outside, touch
Yeah,
grass.
Yes, please. Can we go back to like touching frogs or whatever? I don't know.
I don't know about touching frogs.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I used to do when I was young and like collect tadpoles and like cups. Not about you guys, but
Oh, I used to catch crickets and other bugs. We had like a little cricket catcher, and I'd run around and be like, "Look, I got a cricket."
yeah, we should go back to that. I think that was a good thing.
I don't think I don't know, but
yeah, no, I think you should have also eaten the crickets. Probably would have
hell
been
yeah,
good for your
good
health.
source of protein.
Yep.
No plastics in them yet, I'm sure.
it would have helped to support your immune system.
Oh god.
We should have talked about vaccines. No, I'm kidding. We should not have.
On another episode for sure. Another topic. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing our discussion here on social media and AI. It was nice.
yeah, it was my pleasure. It was a good conversation, for
Same.
sure.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for
I
having
think
me,
that will do it
guys.
for today. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that was definitely one of our longer episodes. I feel like, holy,
Sorry, guys. I be yapping.
No, I love
I
this one.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to this one. I'm glad I went long. There's a lot to talk about, so
Yay.